Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Itachi kidnapped Naruto during the moment of weakness part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Damp. One word to describe the caves he walked through on a daily basis. The cave he was currently walking through now would be damp. 3 words would be confined, damp, and mildewy. Those 3 words alone depicted the entire labyrinth of caves and caverns that are the Akatsuki lair. To any common person, these living conditions would be absolutely atrocious. The air was stale and smelled of mold. The caves were dimly lit with chakra-infused candles. They never went out, but barely made a difference in the darkness. Itachi did not complain. In all honesty, the elder Uchiha could care less where he lived. After all, the Akatsuki were never ones to be particular about where they resided. Daidara was an exception, however. The intricacy of the countless intersecting caves made this mountain an ideal location for the Akatsuki. Anyone who did not know their way around this webbed maze would certainly get lost. Following the dimly lit corridors through the hollowed mountain, Itachi made his way to the central cavern. The cavern itself was a massive hollow located half a mile within the mountain. It was split into 2 halves by a seemingly bottomless ravine. Countless stalagmites protruded from the vast ceiling, sending droplet upon droplet of mineralized water to continuously break the endless silence bestowed upon this giant cavern. When Itachi reached the precipice overlooking the ravine, a low, commanding voice echoed over the distance of the cavern. "You're early, Itachi-san." The elder Uchiha nodded slightly. A thick chuckle reached the brunette's ears, ringing off of the cavern walls. "Quiet as ever, any? Uchiha Itachi? No wonder Kisame-sen complains about your lack of conversation during missions. Your silence is rather unnerving." Itachi did not bother to acknowledge that statement. He was well aware of his habitual actions, or rather, lack thereof. Kisame also seemed hell-bent on reminding him about his antisocial, arrogant self. Turning his attention back to his leader, Itachi nodded and awaited the reasons for his summoning. "I will get right to the point, Itachi-san." The Akatsuki leader spoke in a dead serious tone, much different from the teasing note the brunette heard just a moment ago. "There are only 2 Jinchuriki left for us to acquire. I have already sent Kisame-san after the 4 tails in grass. I hear that the 4 tails is quite weak, so Kisame-san should not have any problems. I want you, however, to head for Konoha to retrieve the 9 tails. Despite our lack of movements these last few years, Konohagaku's protection of the 9 tails has not even diminished in the least." Pausing for a moment to laugh softly, the Akatsuki leader continued, "I also hear that the younger Uchiha has returned to your village. As you know, he was with Orochimaru for 3 years, until the destruction of Oto. From there, he was taken back to Konoha." Itachi stiffened when he heard this, but remained silent and waited for the rest of his mission. "Ah yes, your younger brother. Sasuke was his name?" He paused. "I do believe that he never leaves the Jinchuriki's side. You will have quite a trial ahead of you, Itachi-san. I'm sure you can manage though. Even now, you're still vastly stronger than that of your younger sibling. For now, I want you to observe your target until you find the most opportune time to strike. I do ask, however, that you finish as soon as possible. It has come to my attention that the Akatsuki are being carefully watched by that toad Sannin, Jiraiya. A very troublesome man. This location has not yet been compromised, but it is only a matter of time." There was a long pause after that. Itachi assumed his leader was analyzing Akatsuki's current situation with the toad Sannin. He silently agreed with the man that if their location was discovered by the hermit, it would set their objectives back another few years. All of this waiting, despite their well-practiced patience, was taking a toll even on their leader. He looked up again when said leader continued to speak, seemingly finished with his thoughts. "Getting back to your assignment, any methods of attainment are acceptable, as long as the Jinchuriki is alive when you arrive back here for the extraction. I am aware of the fighting spirit this particular Jinchuriki has, and I am quite confident that you are more than capable to break it." Another dark laugh. "That is all, Itachi-san." The elder Uchiha nodded in acknowledgement and left the cavern without a word. It was not until he reached the surface that his thoughts reflected upon his face. He grinned. A whispered name was carried along the wind and he was gone. Uzumaki Naruto. The clash of metal echoed over the distance. From afar, one would think that a fierce battle ensued between 2 deadly adversaries. Up close, yes, it was a fierce battle. A match, a spar, to determine who held the higher knowledge, who had the most stealth, who was stronger. A fight between rivals. 19-year-old Uzumaki Naruto, Konoha's #1 loudmouth jounin, eyed his opponent before him. Uchiha Sasuke. He was tall and lithe. His pale skin against the darkness of his clothes and his ebony hair was akin moonlight reflecting off of a placid lake, untouched. The stoic, yet soft and handsome features of his face were framed by random lengths of his out-of-control hair. Despite that strong jaw and those high cheekbones, those full and most definitely kissable lips, his eyes are what captivate any who look upon him. Pools of black that rival the darkest of nights. He looked almost delicate. Almost. If Naruto didn't know any better, he'd tell his rival exactly what he thought of him at that moment. Considering all of the possible outcomes of sharing his current thoughts with the younger Uchiha, Naruto heavily decided against it. He'd rather not get pummeled into the ground for admitting Sasuke was kissable and delicate. Naruto chuckled. For years have passed since Sasuke's return to Konoha. Or rather, when the blonde dragged the bastard back by his hair kicking and screaming. Well, that's not what really happened. This is just the story Naruto is more than happy to tell anyone who asks how he got the Uchiha heir to come back. However, Sasuke does make sure that his rival does not go overboard with the exaggerations. Much to Naruto's chagrin. Turning his attention back to his teammate, Naruto immediately noticed the smirk forming on the brunette's face. He also noticed the sudden twitch of the pale, slender fingers. To an untrained eye, this was something that would be overlooked and the results would be fatal. To Naruto, however, Sasuke had removed 2 shuriken from his pouch and had thrown them with deadly accuracy towards the blonde. Naruto quickly jumped and flipped forward, avoiding the first shuriken. He caught the second one and threw it back the way it came. Landing on all fours, Naruto took to the trees. He watched his rival through the leaves, waiting for him to make his next move. A slight smirk grew on each man's face when their eyes finally met. As soon as the brunette disappeared from Naruto's sight, the blonde took off full speed through the trees. The chase was on. Channeling his chakra to the bottom of his feet and expelling it out of the chakra points, Naruto was able to travel faster through the dense canopy of the forest and away from a rapidly approaching Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto inwardly cursed. He had thought for a moment that he would have been able to outrun the brunette. Naruto was disappointed when he noticed said brunette currently running alongside of him. It was then that Naruto realized that Sasuke's ordinarily ebony eyes were now blood red, spinning with the Sharingan. Figures I'd forget about his damn Sharingan, Naruto thought bitterly. It was at that precise moment, while Naruto was distracted by his own thoughts, that Sasuke struck. He swiftly jumped ahead of the blonde and twisted his body around. Sasuke's leg came up and delivered a direct blow to Naruto's midsection, sending the blonde flying back the way he came. Sasuke smirked triumphantly when he saw the stunned expression on the Naruto's face. However, the Uchiha heir's victory was short-lived when Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sasuke cursed. Naruto was getting faster. Landing on a nearby branch, Sasuke calmed his racing heart and waited within the shadows of the leaves. He was well aware of his rival's lack of patience and decided to use it against the blonde. It's what usually prevented Naruto from winning any of their spars. Much to Sasuke's amusement. An almost inaudible rustle of leaves to his left indicated Naruto's location and that the blonde knew where Sasuke was hiding. A rustle of leaves to his right and from behind verified that Naruto had created 2 clones. The dobe was going to attack him using a triangle formation. It would have been an effective strategy if Naruto had not used it several times before. Wary of Naruto and his 2 clones' locations, the brunette positioned himself in a defensive stance. It was then that the kitsune made his move. 3 kunai were thrown directly at Sasuke from Naruto and each of his bunshin. Easily deflected, Sasuke leapt forward towards the first clone. He found him immediately and wasted no time in disengaging the Naruto copy. With one down, the Uchiha heir turned his attention to the last clone and Naruto himself. Both of which were almost upon him, attacking directly. Pulling out 2 kunai, Sasuke blocked both attacks and countered one, slicing his kunai with deadly accuracy across the chest of the last bunshin. It disappeared with a popping noise and Sasuke turned to focus his attention on Naruto. He smirked. I almost thought you were improving, dobe. Naruto only glared at him. Odd, Sasuke thought. Stop calling me dobe, you bastard! Was all that Sasuke heard before he realized a second too late that the Naruto standing in front of him was merely a clone. He had absolutely no time to react when the real Naruto tackled him from above, sending both men to the ground. Naruto landed on top of Sasuke, straddling his waist and gripping each of the brunette's wrists above his head. The blonde leaned down and whispered, "Gotcha, bastard." An almost maniacal grin was plastered over Naruto's face. Dobe, Sasuke said smugly before he pushed up and rolled them both over, reversing their positions. Grinning like, as Naruto so eloquently puts it, the bastard he is, Sasuke leaned down and whispered in the surprised blonde's ear, "No, I win, Uzuratanki." Suppressing an indignant pout, Naruto glared up at his friend, "Bastard. That doesn't count." "Whatever, dobe." Despite the fact that you pinned me first, noticing Naruto's shock, Sasuke added, yes, I'll admit that you got me first. As I was saying, despite the fact that you pinned me first, I still came out on top in the end. The dark-haired shinobi relinquished his hold on the blonde and stood up. He leaned down and offered his hand to his friend. Naruto ignored the urge to swat it away and allowed Sasuke to help him to his feet. Dobe. Shut up, team. Let's get back to the village, I'm hungry, Sasuke suggested, strategically avoiding the impending argument. YOSH. Ramen! Naruto yelled enthusiastically. No, was Sasuke's immediate response to the blonde's outburst. Aw, but Sasuke, the Naruto whined, you know I love ramen and I know you do too. Us and ramen are like two pods in a pea. Like white or rice. Right? Sasuke couldn't help but chuckle audibly at his rival's stupidity. So what you're trying to say, Dobe, is that you, me, and ramen are like two peas in a pod and also like white on rice? Sasuke asked, his amusement clearly evident in his voice. Yeah. Exactly, Naruto spoke excitedly, completely missing the insinuated teasing or just ignoring it. Sasuke was not sure. The latter being unlikely and very un-Naruto. The brunette chanced a look at his teammate and sighed. Ramen it is, then. Yes. Sasuke team, you're too awesome. Naruto cheered happily and broke into a run towards the village. Dobe, Sasuke took a moment to observe his hyperactive companion. He smiled and took off after the orange blur in the distance. Neither of the two Jounins noticed the black-clad shinobi step out of the shadows of the trees after their departure. Neither of them noticed that this man had uncharacteristic grin softening his features. And neither of them noticed his red eyes spinning wildly. It had been well over a month since Itachi first arrived at Konohagakure for his mission. During that time, the elder Uchiha had skillfully managed to evade detection from any of the Konoha shinobi. His anonymity provided him with the opportunity to study Naruto's daily routines. As of yet, Itachi had not been able to ascertain a moment of weakness wherein he could actually abduct the blonde. He was never usually alone during the day. Itachi concluded that Naruto being so alone all his life resulted in a natural urge to seek out company wherever he could find it. This trait of the Naruto is what made the task of acquiring the Jinchuriki so troublesome. Itachi also noted that even at night Naruto was guarded by several well-positioned ANBU members. Judging from all of this high security, the Hokage must be wary of Akatsuki's movements. Itachi probably had that toad hermit to thank for all this. The Akatsuki leader had been correct in assuming that this mission would take longer than necessary. Besides needing constant companionship, Itachi also noticed that Naruto was not as ignorant and idiotic as he let on. Firstly, Naruto knew about the stationed ANBU members. The elder Uchiha had witnessed him find every single ANBU member while looking out his living room window one night. That truly impressed the missing nin. Itachi theorized that Naruto had constructed a mask of sorts. Discovering this interesting little fact, it became clear to Itachi that Naruto was a whole lot emotionally weaker than he let on. This was something Itachi could definitely use to his advantage. It was only after watching Naruto and Sasuke together that Itachi also became aware of what his little brother felt for the blonde. It was painfully obvious, and the elder Uchiha could not determine if Naruto knew about Sasuke's feelings or not. Judging from the way Naruto responded to Sasuke's subtle flirting, or rather, didn't respond to Sasuke's flirting, Itachi concluded that when it came to receiving other people's feelings, Naruto was very inexperienced. Or being the more likely of reasons, Sasuke's flirting was absolutely ridiculous. Even the most skilled of shinobi would just barely pick up on the hesitant, deliberate touches or the frequent sideways glances that spoke volumes, but were left unnoticed. Itachi merely shook his head at his brother's failed attempts to gain the blonde's affection. He had been more than accurate when he had encountered his younger brother at that in all those years ago. The boy still lacked it. Hate. It was something that Itachi was very familiar with. He did not understand the feelings his brother felt for Naruto. It was foreign to him. Love. He had never loved. He had hated. Hate was all he knew. Itachi realized that watching his brother only made him hate more. Seeing Sasuke feel emotions other than hate, despite the younger Uchiha's general cold demeanor, somewhat irked Itachi. And for some reason, the elder Uchiha could not understand why. Suppressing his confusing thoughts, Itachi turned back to the task at hand. The pair had gone to Ichiraku's for ramen. It was blatantly obvious that the blonde had an affinity for the food. This irked Itachi in a different way. He never really liked ramen. Well, he had never had the chance to try it. After all, his father had never allowed him to eat food that was unfit for an Uchiha. Ignoring that thought, the elder Uchiha sent a tiny spark of chakra to his ears and focused in on Naruto and Sasuke's conversation. Haha. I totally kicked your ass today, Uchiha, Naruto bragged, then continued while rudely pointing his chopsticks in Sasuke's face, and I'll get you again. Dobe. Don't be so cocky, Sasuke grunted. I'm not being cocky, Naruto frowned, I'm stating a fact. A fact that'll have you on your back and begging me to stop. Sasuke ungraciously spit out the food he currently had in his mouth upon hearing that statement. This, only earning another bout of laughs from Naruto at the younger Uchiha's expense. Apparently, Naruto did not catch on to the innuendo of what he had just said. Using that to his advantage, Sasuke countered. No, Dobe. I'll have you on your back, begging me to keep going. A moment of silence followed. What do you mean, Sasuke? Why would I be? Naruto's eyes widened when he finally understood the brunette's insinuation. Slow as ever, Uzuratanki. You bastard! Naruto yelled, a slight pink tinting his cheeks. You're getting even more perverted than Kakashi-sensei. And that's bad? I bet you even read those books that Ero-sennin wrote. Sasuke smirked. I know you've read those books, so you shouldn't be lecturing me about perversion. Then he added for good measure, pervert. Sasuke almost laughed when Naruto turned a very attractive shade of red before he threw some money on the counter and took off, away from the chaos that is Uzumaki Naruto. Get back here, you bastard! Naruto roared, giving chase. Itachi watched the pair head out of the city. Sasuke must have known that Naruto would freak out at the brunette's final statement, and most definitely tried to kick his ass for it. To prevent any damage to the town, the younger Uchiha kept a safe distance from the blonde as he outran him until he stopped in a clearing, deep in the forest surrounding Konoha. He waited for Naruto to catch up. Naruto was pissed. That bastard Uchiha seriously pissed him off. The blonde continued to fume as he chased after said bastard. He noticed that the sun was about to set. Inwardly cursing, he sped up so he could end this little fight before the sun disappeared over the mountains. Naruto had learned on his own that the ANBU who guarded him started their shifts after sunset. He really didn't want Sasuke to know about them. It was kind of embarrassing that he was so heavily guarded. He really didn't need them either. Naruto was certain that he could defeat those ANBU quite easily. They'd be of little use if the blonde was ever abducted or attacked. He chuckled slightly at that thought. Even with a whole squad of ANBU, he was still alone. Sensing Sasuke finally stopping just ahead, the blonde burst out of the trees and into the clearing. He landed a few feet in front of the younger Uchiha and glared at the triumphant smirk plastered over the bastard's face. Dobe, you still let your emotions overrule your actions. No wonder why you still get into trouble. Team! Naruto shouted before lunging at the smug brunette standing before him. Sasuke easily dodged his fist, but was too slow for the foot that followed. He grunted when Naruto's foot impacted with his midsection and sent both men landing in tangle of limbs about 5 feet from where the Uchiha was standing. Naruto landed a few punches before Sasuke was finally able to restrain the irate blonde. Calm down yet? Sasuke asked seriously. I didn't think it'd bother you that much, Dobe, considering how true it is. He grinned. Damn team, Naruto muttered, can you get off of me now? Are you finished with your tantrum? Naruto pouted. I wouldn't have freaked out if you hadn't been such a jerk. Ah, but I am a jerk. It can't be helped, Sasuke lamented. Naruto stared incredulously at the raven-haired man until he burst into fits of laughter. Sasuke even chuckled at himself. You haha that ha-ha-ha. Naruto couldn't even form a coherent sentence. He rolled over onto his side and held his stomach when Sasuke finally released his hold on the blonde. Didn't know haha bastards could be so damn funny. It took about 5 minutes of laughing before Naruto was able to calm down. Sasuke didn't mind at all. He really enjoyed watching Naruto have a good time without that ridiculous mask of his on. It was refreshing. He continued to study his blonde companion as he wiped the tears from his eyes. You have no idea how funny I can be, Dobe, Sasuke murmured as he helped the blonde to his feet. Naruto asked dumbly, and stop calling me that bastard. The blonde turned away and pouted, crossing his arms for emphasis. He's still acting like a brat, Sasuke thought to himself as he eyed the epitome of childishness before him illuminated by the light of the setting sun. In that moment, it occurred to Sasuke that after all of this time, after everything they'd been through together, Naruto was still the same boy he met 7 years ago. And yet he wasn't. Then, they had been rivals forced to work together. They became friends. Now, they were still friends, they were rivals and inseparable. Sasuke had no idea when his feelings for Naruto had reached new levels beyond the boundaries of friendship. He had grown to love him in more ways than he could comprehend. Sasuke turned from his thoughts and stared at his companion. He made his decision. What I mean, Dobe, Sasuke whispered as he leaned forward and grasped Naruto's chin. turning the blonde to face him, "is that I'm full of surprises." Their lips met briefly. Sasuke felt a surge of electricity throughout his body from that simple meeting of lips. He looked at Naruto, who was staring at him. Sasuke saw shock and confusion swimming through those blue depths. This somewhat broke his confidence, and Sasuke began to pull away. He was stopped, however, when a cool hand caressed his cheek. The Uchiha turned his questioning gaze back to the blonde. A look of determination had replaced the shock and confusion in those eyes. Naruto smiled and closed the distance between their lips as his hands slid up and threaded through Sasuke's hair. Sasuke took no time in wrapping his arms around the blonde's waist and deepening their increasingly passionate kissing. Lips moved together and bodies were pressed flush against the other as a battle for dominance ensued between both men. However, Naruto lost this battle when Sasuke's tongue found its way through his lips and teeth and acquainted itself with his own. Naruto moaned softly when Sasuke's hand slipped down to his hips and whimpered when the Uchiha started to pull away and broke the contact. Breathless, both men stared at one another in a sort of daze. A light blush adorned their faces as they attempted to breathe in much-needed oxygen. Sasuke finally broke the silence when he chuckled softly and stole another chaste kiss from Naruto. "We better head back," Sasuke whispered against Naruto's lips, "it's getting late." At a complete loss for words, the dumbfounded blonde was only able to manage a small nod. "Let's go, then," Sasuke said as he reached for Naruto's hand. It was when the brunette grasped his hand that Naruto was finally able to find words. I'll catch up. Just can you give me a minute?" The blonde uncharacteristically stuttered. Sasuke studied the blonde with a questioning gaze and glimpsed the silent plea in his blue eyes. Nodding, the younger Uchiha squeezed Naruto's hand gently before leaving the clearing to allow the blonde to gather his thoughts. Naruto watched Sasuke disappear into the trees before he allowed himself to fall onto the soft grass and stare up into the blackening abyss above him. The stars were starting to become visible against the dark hues of blue and black of the sky. The blonde really didn't know what to make of what had just transpired between himself and Sasuke. To say the least, it was unexpected. Naruto had no idea that Sasuke felt that way about him. Their friendship just got a whole lot complicated, and it was way too much for Naruto's mind to handle at the moment. He knew for a fact that he cared a hell of a lot more for Sasuke than any of his other friends. Sasuke had been his first real friend and would always have a special place in Naruto's heart. But was it love? The blonde couldn't really relate of his experiences with the term love. He loved ramen, but that's a food, so it doesn't really count. He loved Iruka-sensei, but he was like a father to the blonde. He's had crushes, the biggest being on Sakura, but that had dissipated long ago. She had become one of Naruto's best of friends. As Naruto contemplated all of this, he failed to notice the looming presence of another person above him. The blonde was too preoccupied with his conflicting emotions regarding a certain raven-haired jounin to notice the looming presence perform several hand seals. It was when the jutsu hit him dead on that Naruto finally opened his eyes only for them to go blurry as he lost consciousness. Naruto saw red. Itachi had followed the two jounin to the clearing and hid himself in the overcasting shadows of the trees. He had watched their little scuffle with little interest. Itachi concluded that Sasuke had been right in saying that Naruto let his emotions overrule his actions. This was something that he, himself, had also noticed during the last month. Naruto was a very interesting person. Slowly getting bored, Itachi's eyes widened a fraction when he saw his younger brother kiss Naruto. Sasuke's sudden forwardness had caught the unsuspecting blonde completely off guard. If Naruto didn't get the hints before, he sure as hell got them now. Itachi was surprised at this turn of events. He had no idea that Sasuke could be so bold with his emotions, especially to a member of the same sex. It made sense. His younger brother never, not once during the last month, responded to a girl in any way that was not necessary. It was clear that Sasuke was not as cold as he appeared to be. Naruto was the only person able to make Sasuke smile, to make him feel. Itachi could not help but feel a twinge of anger at his brother for that. The elder Uchiha ignored the feeling and continued to observe the two men before him. Naruto was absolutely dumbfounded. His bright, blue eyes wide and staring unbelievingly at Sasuke. His mouth was slightly parted and moving to speak, but the words were left unsaid. Itachi thought that look suited him. Quiet, wanting to speak, but having no words whatsoever. This was a part of Uzumaki Naruto that no one, save for Sasuke, ever saw. A personality hidden well behind his mask of cheerfulness and stupidity. What Itachi saw now was Naruto unmasked and very exposed. Sasuke was a different matter altogether. Itachi had seen his younger brother express emotions countless times over the last month, and only in the presence of Naruto. Now, however, what Sasuke felt for Naruto was practically radiating off of the younger Uchiha. It spoke volumes of his feelings in regards to the younger man. Love. Itachi frowned. Itachi watched with growing interest as Naruto battled with his conflicting emotions. When Naruto kissed Sasuke with that look laced with confusion and uncertainty, Itachi smirked. He knew at that moment that the Jinchuriki was not in love with his brother. It was written all over his face. Maybe, Itachi thought, given time, Naruto could return Sasuke's feelings. It was quite possible. Itachi suddenly felt a surge of chakra and looked back towards the clearing. Sasuke had left, and Naruto was lying on the ground. Somewhat irritated at himself for getting so caught up in his own thoughts, Itachi scanned the area for any hidden chakra signatures. There were none. The ANBU must have been waiting for Sasuke to bring Naruto back, seeing as how they left the village together quite loudly. Surprised and amused at this turn of events, Itachi stepped out into the clearing and calmly glided over to the Jinchuriki. Naruto seemed to be lost in his own thoughts over his recent encounter with Sasuke at the moment. Itachi leaned over the unwary Jounin and began to form the correct hand signals for the sleep jutsu he had learned to use on Naruto. It was a little more complicated than most sleep jutsus because Itachi needed Naruto and the fox to sleep for 3 days. Being the vessel of Kyuubi, a simple sleep jutsu would not keep either asleep. This particular, forbidden jutsu would be able to suppress both Naruto's and Kyuubi's chakra, but only temporarily. He was going to need those 3 days to place another seal on the blonde to lock away both chakras until the extraction. Naruto would become all but helpless, losing a large amount if not all of his chakra use as well as the power of Kyuubi. When it began to take effect, Itachi watched as Naruto opened his eyes briefly before falling prey to the sleep jutsu. With that done, Itachi gently lifted Naruto up and carried him bridal style until a thought occurred to him. Pulling Naruto closer, Itachi freed one hand and slipped off Naruto's leaf hitayat, letting it fall to the ground. Itachi turned towards the northwest and disappeared into the darkness with his prize. On his way back to the village, Sasuke mentally berated himself for practically forcing his feelings on Naruto. He had confused him. Naruto tried to hide it, but Sasuke had seen it clearly. Maybe it was a mistake to surprise Naruto like that, but it couldn't be helped. Sasuke had dropped all of his barriers and let himself get caught up in the moment. He chuckled softly. Naruto had finally rubbed off on him. Sasuke had known it was inevitable. Naruto's personality and attitude were so infectious that even he, infamous for his cold personality, could warm up and change for the better. About a year after his return to Konoha, Sasuke had found himself smiling more and was even surprised to know he had a pretty good sense of humor. Unfortunately for everyone other than Naruto, Sasuke only showed this rare side of himself when in the presence of the blonde. Without Naruto, Sasuke resumed his natural, cold bastard-like ways. And the villagers hated Naruto even more for this. They had long since forgiven Sasuke's defection and were glad to have him back, but their narrow-mindedness had led to further mistreatment and hate of Naruto. Sasuke scowled. It was on Naruto's birthday, 2 years after Sasuke's return, that he learned about the villagers' hatred and Naruto's mask. It was the first time Sasuke had seen who Naruto really was. Honestly, seeing his best friend so unlike his usual idiotic self had scared him. 2 years ago, Sasuke found Naruto sitting on Yandame's head overlooking the village. Today was a memorial of the ninja who had lost their lives during the battle with Kyuubi. It was a memorial commemorating Yandame's defeat of the nine-tailed demon. It was also Naruto's birthday. This was why Sasuke had sought out the blonde. Of all the years they had known each other, they had never celebrated Naruto's birthday. Not once, and this bothered him. Sasuke shuddered at the memory of his own surprise parties that Sakura and Naruto had organized for him. Walking silently towards Naruto's quiet form, Sasuke sat down beside his friend, followed the blonde's gaze towards the village. They sat in comfortable silence, just watching the twinkling lights of the countless homes and occasional fireworks. Every now and then, Naruto would sigh loudly, but he never said anything. Sasuke knew his friend well enough to let him speak when he wanted to. Right now, Naruto was lost in his own thoughts. Of what? Sasuke did not know, so he waited for Naruto talk first. It was almost midnight before Naruto made a sound other than his occasional sighing. When Sasuke looked over at Naruto, he was shocked to see his best friend crying. Not really knowing what to do, Sasuke reached over and pulled Naruto into a comforting embrace. At least, he hoped it was comforting. Sasuke was not used to comforting people. When he felt Naruto's smaller hands cling onto his shirt, he knew that he was doing something right. Sasuke held on to Naruto even after his silent sobbing started to ebb. "As Sasuke?" Naruto whispered. "HN. Thank you." "HN, Dobe," Sasuke replied, then added, "Happy birthday, Naruto." Sasuke looked down at his friend and came face to face with someone he knew so well, but at that moment, he realized that he didn't know this person at all. Sasuke took a moment to study the unfamiliar features of Naruto. He saw immediately that his eyes were different. They remained that bright, ocean blue color, but they weren't as wide and youthful looking. They were slightly smaller and made Naruto look older than he actually was. They were the eyes of someone who had lived a hard life alone, fending for himself in a cruel world who would not accept him, constantly trying to prove himself. Sasuke realized then that this was the true Uzumaki Naruto. Those eyes somewhat unnerved Sasuke. They were so different from the eyes he was used to seeing on his best friend. Their honesty and vulnerability, outlined with that hidden wisdom, scared Sasuke. He was partially relieved when Naruto averted his gaze and started to speak. "You know, there was never a time I truly felt safe," Naruto whispered softly. "It was only a law that prevented them from hurting me physically, but I could still hear them. And that hurt even more than the beatings." Sasuke tensed at that. "They really?" He felt Naruto nod against his chest. "They did a lot of things, well, not all of them, just the ones who were brave enough to. Sandaime was not able to keep track of all of them." "Do they still?" Sasuke never had to finish his sentence. "No. I'm a lot stronger than I was when I was younger," Naruto chuckled softly. "It's kind of ironic." "What is?" Sasuke asked, tightening his grip around his friend. "It's ironic that I continue to protect the village that still hates me for something I'm not." "Are you happy, Naruto?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you happy? Here?" Sasuke asked again. "Well, yeah. I guess so. My friends are here and this is my home. I can be a ninja and I'll be Hokage. Yeah, I'm happy," Naruto answered a little too quickly. Dope. I don't believe you, but I can accept that." "Wow," Naruto said in awe. "I didn't know you could be so nice considering how much of a bastard you are." Sasuke scowled and smacked Naruto upside his head. "I'm trying to be serious here, and you're making jokes about it. TCH, figures." "Oh wow," Naruto whined pathetically. "Sasuke team." Sasuke was glad that Naruto was cheering up a bit. "Naruto? Yeah? You can act like yourself, you know? When you're with me," Sasuke muttered. Naruto grinned madly. "Oh? Now you're just being sweet." "Ouch." Sasuke hit him again. "Thanks, Sasuke. Don't worry about it, though. Will you stop calling me that?" "No. Bastard." They had talked all night. The occasional comfortable silence befell them often, but it never lasted for long before one of them started to talk again. Sasuke had asked Naruto a lot of questions about Kyuubi and growing up on his own. Naruto had answered honestly and asked Sasuke quite a few questions of his own. Sasuke had learned more about Naruto during that one night than he ever did during all the years he'd known the blonde. It had been quite a wake-up call for Sasuke. He had finally found someone that he could truly call a friend. After that night, anyone that so much as looked at Naruto the wrong way was on the receiving end of a very infamous Uchiha death glare. Sasuke had once overheard some villagers speaking quietly as he and Naruto walked through town. The second he heard the words, "monster," "tricked our Uchiha heir," and "forced friendship" in the same sentence, Sasuke had snapped. He made sure that every person within yelling distance knew exactly what he thought of them and their gossip. Amidst all the cursing and yelling, Naruto dragged him out of town and quite literally knocked some sense into him. This, of course, led to another fight until both of them nearly passed out from overexertion. After both of them had calmed down and got some energy back, Naruto had berated Sasuke for his lack of tact and made him promise to ignore the stupidity of the villagers. Naruto explained that it was up to him to gain the people's respect and that it was something that couldn't be forced with tyrannical outbursts of anger. Even if he had to earn respect from each villager, one by one, he would do it because that was his ninja way. Sasuke smiled at the memory. Naruto truly was the number one at surprising people. If anyone could pull that arduous task off, it was him. At least after that incident in town, it was very rare that someone would speak ill of or act coldly towards Naruto in front of Sasuke. It was damn well taboo, an unwritten Uchiha law. Sasuke chuckled at that. As he made his way to the Uchiha compound, Sasuke noticed several ANBU making their rounds over the city. He was physically and emotionally worn out from everything that had happened that day, thus, he had failed to realize that the ANBU were moving too irrationally for mere guard duty. He went straight home and straight to bed, completely disregarding the ANBU. By midnight, Itachi was well on his way out of Fire Country. He was making better time than he had previously calculated. The borders of Earth Country were only a few hours away. The elder Uchiha traveled at a steady pace through the trees, briefly stopping only when the extra weight of Naruto started to hinder his balance. He had estimated that he'd need at least one whole day to reach his destination, a cavern within the range of mountains near the heart of Earth Country. Itachi had made the proper preparations of the area beforehand to prevent any interruptions of the sealing of Naruto's and Kyuubi's chakra. The forest was riddled with complicated and deadly traps. To think he'd have to sink so low as to set mediocre traps to protect him irritated Itachi to no end. He may be a tensei, but he did know his limits. Limits were something even he had. He purposely never used his full powers when fighting an enemy. It would give his opponents an advantage over him. And that was unacceptable. Apart from the traps he set, Itachi had also created some bunshins to keep guard over the forested area before the cave. For him, bunshins used up very little of his chakra, so he could spare a bit. Just to be cautious. Finally, taking the word caution to new levels, Itachi had made a few more bunshins to hide within the trees. 3 were ordered to form a barrier once he and Naruto reached the cavern, and the final one was to perform and maintain a genjutsu. Despite all of his precautions, Itachi remained concerned about his inevitable vulnerability. Should an enemy, namely Konoha Nin in search of the blonde, manage to thwart his traps and genjutsu during the sealing jutsu, Itachi would be at their complete mercy. The Uchiha suddenly felt annoyed at being sent on this mission alone. Kisame would have been able to stand guard, but he was elsewhere at the moment. Itachi did not like this feeling of helplessness. He did not like it at all. The elder Uchiha was interrupted from his thoughts by an almost inaudible murmur emitted from Naruto. Strange, Itachi thought. The sleeping jutsu he had used on Naruto should have put both his body and mind to sleep. He shouldn't be talking at all. But Naruto is no ordinary shinobi. Itachi finished his thought out loud, taking one last look at his captive before looking ahead at the expanse of trees before him. His senses were on full alert, continuously scanning the direction from which he had traveled from. A soft laugh escaped his lips. It appeared that Konoha was losing its touch. They didn't make shinobi like they used to. It was cold. That was the first thought that came to mind as Naruto started to regain consciousness. His second thought soon followed when he opened his eyes. He couldn't see a damn thing. Wherever he was, there was absolutely no light, and it was starting to bother him. Naruto wasn't afraid of the darkness, he just didn't like to feel so alone. Being in the dark by himself made him realize just how lonely he was. It was one of those fears that he kept to himself. No one, except for Sasuke, knew about it. And Naruto was fine with that. Sasuke had not teased him about this fear of his, but he had made it clear with Naruto that, technically, he was afraid of the dark. Naruto had disagreed and he and Sasuke had gotten into an argument after that. He was not afraid of the dark. Along with his clarification, Sasuke had asked him why. Why are you so afraid of being alone? The question had surprised Naruto, but the sincerity of it had encouraged the blonde to talk about it. And Sasuke had listened to him. Not once did Naruto feel uncomfortable as he spoke to his best friend about his phobia. Sasuke. Naruto suddenly remembered what had happened between he and his rival before. Then it hit him. Where was he? Why was he by himself in the darkness? What the hell happened? Question upon question raced through his mind. He had absolutely no idea where to start and how to answer. He couldn't remember anything after kissing Sasuke. He remembered laying down in the grass. And red eyes. Naruto's eyes widened in shock as he recalled the burning eyes that bore into him before he had passed out. They were oddly familiar, but Naruto could not place them. Storing that thought for later, Naruto sighed as he sat up and tried to gather his bearings. With wherever he was being so dark, he couldn't scan his surroundings. Relying on the next best sense, he cautiously felt the area around himself with his hands. The ground was wet and chilled Naruto to the bone. As callous fingers felt along the rough surface of the ground, he determined that it was stone. He was in a cave. Other than his breathing, the only other sound Naruto could hear was water dripping all around him. There was also a gentle, continuous, and dripping flow of water landing on his head. Irritated, Naruto attempted to stand up and move away from the barrage of water droplets. The moment he stood up, a wave of dizziness prevented him from achieving his goal and he fell back to the ground. With a defeated sigh, he settled for just rolling away from the increasingly annoying spot. When Naruto managed to find a spot in the cave that wasn't wet, he smirked up at the darkness triumphantly. He glared when another drop of water landed on his nose. Naruto was pained to admit that the ceiling had bested him. At least he could find a little humor in his situation. Grinning and gaining back some motivation, Naruto started to move around the cave in an attempt to find a wall. He was grateful when his outstretched hand hit solid rock not too far from where he had woken up. Why do I feel so damn weak? He asked no one in particular. As Naruto expected, nobody answered him. He sat in silence and wondered why Kyuubi hadn't healed him. Damn fox! Naruto cursed loudly. Again, nobody responded to his outburst. Suddenly, Naruto felt a surge of power coming from his left. His eyes widened at the magnitude of it all. Naruto sensed that whatever that power was, it was angry and very frustrated. It also seemed to be in some sort of pain. This power seemed familiar, but for the life of him, Naruto could not place it. Now that's strange, Naruto thought. He could feel the power moving closer to him. Naruto didn't mind that at all. Hell, he'd welcome whatever it was with open arms. He hated to admit it, but the loneliness was starting to get to him. It was not the darkness. As the power got closer, Naruto turned his head in the direction it was coming from and waited for the unknown being to show itself. To his surprise, Naruto could see a dim, red light. Said dim, red light suddenly became a bright flash of red as it came into view and enveloped the blonde in its warmth. Naruto could feel his strength slowly return to him, so he chanced opening his eyes he hadn't even known he'd shut. Fascination overwhelmed his surprise of the situation. Naruto found himself engulfed in a giant, red mass of chakra. He lifted his hand to examine it, and marveled at the red flames gliding all over his skin, healing all of his injuries. Relaxing, Naruto let himself go and fell into a peaceful slumber. He was completely unaware of the chakra lifting him up and carrying away from the darkness he had awoken in. Almost as quickly as he had fell asleep, Naruto was once again roused from his sleep rather rudely this time. Hey brat! Wake up! An angry voice ordered. When Naruto didn't acknowledge the voice, it spoke again, laced with venom. Wake up now or I'll kill you where you lay. That got Naruto's attention. His eyes fluttered open and he was surprised to see that he was no longer alone in the darkness. He was even more surprised when he realized that he was laying beside a giant, brightly lit cage. A cage in which a being he hadn't seen in a long time resided. For years, Naruto murmured. You're damn right, it's been 4 years, brat, was Kyuubi's annoyed response. For years that we haven't spoken nor seen each other. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I was really enjoying my slumber, you sad excuse for a ninja. Why? Naruto asked dumbly, not even catching the insult. His mind was still half asleep and he was ready to slip back into unconsciousness. Noticing this, Kyuubi growled, Stay awake. I've healed you enough and we must speak. Now. Naruto groaned indignantly and sat up. Rubbing his eyes, Naruto looked up at the fox and pouted. Why? Was all Naruto said, gesturing between himself and Kyuubi. Idiot. That's why we must speak. Last I checked, you had suppressed me farther into the confines of your childish mind. I've been sleeping since then, but whatever happened to you outside has woken me up. You have some explaining to do, brat. Naruto frowned at this new information. What had happened? I sparred with Sasuke. We had ramen. Naruto tried to backtrack through his foggy memory. The bastard pissed me off. Naruto suddenly blushed. Sasuke had kissed him, and he had kissed his friend back. Shit, Naruto cursed out loud. You're remembering that Uchiha you kissed? Kyuubi chuckled. Naruto's blush intensified, which only fueled Kyuubi's amusement. How do you know about that? I thought. Just because you think you completely suppressed me, does not mean that I was gone, the fox interrupted. I may have been sleeping all of this time, but I still felt your emotions and trust me, I've heard all of your thoughts. Unfortunately. Kyuubi grinned, or seemed to grin, at Naruto's expense. That Uchiha brat is quite the character. I'm surprised you responded to him at all. Naruto sighed. I don't know why I kissed him back. You don't love him, Kyuubi bluntly stated, it's as simple as that. Maybe you're right, Naruto resigned. He really wasn't sure he had any feelings for Sasuke that were more than friendship. Naruto shook his head and forced thoughts of his best friend down for the moment. This was not the time to be discussing his and Sasuke's relationship. Or lack thereof. So Naruto changed the subject. Do you know what happened? Naruto asked. Kyuubi snorted. If I did, I wouldn't have asked you. Oh. Right, Naruto chuckled and scratched his neck in embarrassment. You were distracted with thoughts of the Uchiha brat. Those were the last thoughts I heard before everything went black. Something or someone powerful suppressed your power and mine as well. That explains why you're here now. But to make me fall into a forced sleep as well. Kyuubi? Naruto asked when Kyuubi stopped talking. Something's not right. Naruto was about to question the demon again when he felt it. It was very faint at first, but it slowly escalated. Naruto did not know what the feeling was, but he was starting to feel very weak. When he looked over to Kyuubi, Naruto could see that it was also affecting it as well. Kyuubi appeared to be in a lot of pain. It soon became apparent to Naruto exactly why the fox was in pain. His eyes widened when he could see Kyuubi's red chakra leak out from the demon's body, and was pulled by some unseen force towards the seal on the giant cage. The red chakra snaked around the seal, completely engulfing it with red flames. Kyuubi's vast amount of chakra began to spin as the seal literally sucked up every bit of it from the fox. When the red light dimmed, Naruto could see the unconscious form of Kyuubi on the other side of the cage. He was glad to see that the demon was still breathing. However, Naruto's relief was short-lived. That same strange feeling washed over him again, but this time, it was painful. The blonde released a choke scream as he felt his own chakra being forcibly removed from his body. Naruto managed to open his eyes and he could see his blue chakra flow out of his body and towards the spinning orb of Kyuubi's red chakra. As the two chakras merged, there was a blinding white light that filled the entire cavern. Before Naruto lost consciousness again, he saw a small, violet globe of flames spinning slowly where the seal on Kyuubi's cage used to be. Itachi collapsed beside Naruto's small form in exhaustion. The ceiling had taken a lot more out of him than he had expected. He should have known better. Naruto was renowned for his endless supply of chakra as well as the nine-tail zone. Itachi was almost completely drained of his own chakra. His bunchins had long since disappeared, leaving him completely vulnerable to possible attack. Ignoring his current dilemma for the moment, Itachi checked over the new seal on Naruto's abdomen. Yandame's seal was still intact, but there was now a new marking surrounding the older seal. This new seal encircled Yandame's seal with interlocking designs that formed 4 points of a diamond. Thinner lines from the new seal intersected with Yandame's seal. The Akatsuki had created this seal specifically for Naruto. The jutsu was designed to absorb both Kyuubi's and Naruto's chakra within Yandame's seal and block all outlets to release it. In a sense, it was a cage within a cage. It appeared that the new seal had worked perfectly. Itachi could not sense Naruto's chakra signature, nor Kyuubi's at all. He covered his captive with a blanket and left the cave to scan the area outside for any possible threats. He didn't make it far before he resigned to turning back. His chakra reserves were very low at the moment, and he'd rather not pass out as he jumped through the trees. The landing may prove fatal to himself and his mission. Itachi was satisfied to sense that there were no posing threats in the area of the forest or on the mountain. He returned to the cave quickly and checked over Naruto once more. Itachi managed to make himself comfortable across from the blonde and watched him silently before he gave in to fatigue and fell asleep. When Naruto roused from his sleep, he was glad to note that he was warm this time. He seemed to be pressed against a warm body, his head resting on a solid shoulder, and long hair tickled his nose. The hair smelled of some sort of spice that Naruto could not name, but it smelled good. Naruto could faintly hear the rhythmic beating of a heart beneath his ear. It was oddly comforting to him. The gentle beat was slow and steady and relaxed the awakening blonde. He dimly noted that his legs were wrapped around the warm body and strong arms were holding him up. Naruto's own arms were draped over a pair of muscular shoulders. Amidst all of his sleep-muddled thoughts, Naruto decided that he rather liked to wake up holding somebody close. And he liked being held as well. It was so foreign to him, but it felt nice and comfortable. Safe. Yes, he liked it very much. Naruto sighed and lazily lifted his head so his chin rested on the right shoulder of whoever was carrying him. His eyes drifted over to the face of the unnamed person. Naruto froze. The last person he ever expected to see was staring right back at him. An expressionless face with a pair of blood-red eyes, each of which contained 3 spinning tomos. Red eyes. Uchiha Itachi. Itachi was prepared for the outburst that he was sure would come from the Jinchuriki. It didn't. Instead, Naruto was quiet, watching him with calculating and somewhat surprised blue eyes. It was a trait he noticed countless times during the month he had observed Naruto. And he had kept it well hidden from anyone other than Sasuke. Yet, this collected Naruto he was now carrying seemed different from the one he had been watching, but he couldn't figure out how. Itachi watched as Naruto turned away from his gaze and looked around at their surroundings. They were traveling through the trees at a reasonable pace. Naruto guessed that their trail would be harder to follow this way. Judging from the foliage and unique rock formations on the mountains in the distance, they were in the rock country. A hell of a long way from Konoha. And considering that they were a long way from the wind country, help would not be coming anytime soon. Naruto was rather grateful for his and Sasuke's intensive training for situations like these. It was really helping. Sort of. Naruto, still tense, tried to assess his chakra levels. There were none. Frowning, he pulled himself into his mind and called out for Kyuubi. Silence. He tried again, resulting in more silence. He and Kyuubi had not spoken in almost 4 years. He should be used to her, and he was pretty sure that the fox was a she, not responding. But this was different. Naruto could not feel Kyuubi's presence nor her chakra. It was as if she had vanished. Knowing that he was powerless to do anything about his situation, Naruto released a small sigh of resignation and relaxed his tense muscles. He was at Uchiha Itachi's mercy, and he was prepared to face it. How long? Naruto whispered. The words, "Do I have left?" were left unsaid. He knew the Uchiha would understand. Itachi had watched Naruto with growing fascination. The blonde's continuous myriad of expressions that crossed his face were interesting and had curbed Itachi's curiosity over the last month. The facade Naruto had put up with his Konoha brethren would have resulted in a loud and heated battle. Chakra or no chakra. This Naruto, however, had given in. He was aware of what was about to happen, and he was willing to accept it. Perhaps he changed because he was without the Nine Tails' influence. Losing such a huge part of himself could result in some form of transformation, the Uchiha thought to himself. Or maybe, Uzumaki Naruto has learned to accept defeat. 3 days, Naruto-kun, Itachi answered quietly. What happened to my chakra? Naruto wanted to know this. To be able to suppress both his and Kyuubi's chakra was an amazing feat no matter who did it. Naruto was very impressed despite his situation. It's gone, was all Itachi said and would say. It was not necessary to explain or make conversation. Naruto knew this immediately and merely nodded his head in acknowledgement. They traveled in silence. At nightfall, Itachi stopped to rest near a small river. Carrying Naruto around was starting to take a toll on him. However, that infamous Uchiha pride forbid him from acknowledging his weakening strength. He had practically drained what little chakra he had recovered after sealing Naruto's chakra. Itachi loathed to admit it, especially since he was in the presence of an enemy and captive, but he was tired. Letting go of Naruto's legs and allowing him to stretch out his sore, unused muscles, Itachi gave the blonde a rather threatening look that said, "Try to leave and you'll regret it." Noticing this, Naruto frowned. "I'm not going anywhere. It's not like I really can do anything now, is there?" Itachi merely nodded as he sat down and leaned against a tree. His low chakra was starting to affect his nerves. He needed rest, but the Uchiha was unwilling to let his captive out of his sight. Naruto wouldn't make it far if he did manage to escape, but to lose him now was not an option for Itachi despite his fatigue. Again, his pride was overruling his judgment. Naruto sat across from Itachi and watched the older man weigh his options. He had a pretty good idea what exactly it was that the elder Uchiha was thinking, and he did find it rather amusing. It was odd though. Naruto had noticed that Itachi's eyes were slowly fading back and forth from the Sharingan blood red to that typical Uchiha ebony black. The man must really be tired and low on chakra for something so natural as his Sharingan to deactivate. Naruto had only met Itachi face to face 3 times before. The first time had been at the inn when Naruto was 12. The second time he had experienced one of the older man's genjutsu while trying to rescue Gaara, but Itachi was technically not really present for that encounter. Because of this, he was unable to use the Manjikyu Sharingan. Finally, the third time was a little skirmish between Itachi, Sasuke, and himself before Naruto was able to bring his friend back to Konoha. Not once during those times had Naruto ever seen Itachi without his Sharingan activated. Sasuke even said that Itachi had kept it activated for as long as he could when the brothers were younger, before the massacre. Naruto winced at the thought. That man that was now sitting across from him. The man that had managed to take him from his home without a fight. The man that had massacred his own entire family. Itachi, the one responsible for causing Sasuke so much pain. Naruto knew that with his own impending death, Itachi was going to cause Sasuke to suffer a whole lot more. Naruto inwardly cursed the younger Uchiha for confessing to him. If he'd known things were going to turn out this way, he would have rather remained ignorant of Sasuke's feelings. Looking back at his weary captor, Naruto made his choice. You can rest. I'll keep watch. Itachi's expressionless face showed no sign of giving in to his fatigue. Damn Uchiha pride will probably be the death of both remaining family members, Naruto thought angrily. He had a lot of experience dealing with the younger Uchiha. And realizing it now, Itachi was not too much different from Sasuke. They were both stubborn to the point of personal harm, their pride clouded their better judgment from time to time, much like now, and they spoke little or not at all. Well, Sasuke had learned to talk a little bit more over time a lot. Sometimes, Naruto wouldn't be able to get the bastard to shut up. He stopped his thought there. Any more and Naruto would give in to this reality and acknowledge that he wasn't going to be going home this time. Naruto looked back at Itachi and sighed. If he can deal with the younger Uchiha, he sure as hell will be able to deal with the older one. Naruto stood up and walked slowly, as to not startle his captor, and stopped a few paces away from him. He gestured with his hands to the empty spot on Itachi's right and waited for a response. Itachi was unsure of Naruto's motives, but he nodded his head in a silent yes, and allowed the younger man to sit beside him against the tree. He stiffened when Naruto shuffled a bit closer to him so that their arms touched. When he turned a questioning gaze to his captive, Itachi was welcomed with a bright and true smile from the blonde. Get some rest, we still have 2 more days to travel, right? Naruto asked softly. Itachi nodded. Then get some sleep, old man, Naruto teased and gently nudged Itachi's shoulder and turned away. He added, in a quieter voice, I promise that I'm not going to run away. Itachi was surprised at Naruto's friendly gesture. He had never been on the receiving end of anything remotely friendly considering his history and his overall cold demeanor. This was also foreign to the elder Uchiha and to be honest, he was confused by it. Naruto's behavior towards him wasn't normal at all in a situation like this. The blonde was taking his capture and imminent death rather calmly, and even offering to keep watch for enemies. Enemies of Itachi that would most likely be allies to Naruto. Strange. Naruto waited until he felt Itachi relax before turning back to look at the older man. His eyes were closed and his slow and steady breathing indicated that Itachi was finally asleep. Maybe they're more different than I thought. Naruto had stayed awake until Itachi woke up about 5 hours later. The elder Uchiha had told him to go to sleep and that he would keep watch for the remainder of the night. Naruto agreed without arguing and fell asleep against Itachi's arm. Again, a little surprised by this action, Itachi frowned at the slumbering blonde but did not wake him nor move away. Itachi woke Naruto up an hour after sunrise for a light breakfast and a quick wash in the river. The Uchiha had indulged in his own bath before he had woken the blonde up and allowed Naruto the same courtesy. They were getting too malodorous for his liking. As soon as Naruto was finished, they continued their journey through rock country. The day was practically uneventful and Naruto was bored. 2 days of traveling on someone's back was starting to get to him, and his limitless energy was about to reach an all-time high. Naruto really didn't mind the silence between himself and Itachi, but if he didn't move around and burn that energy off, he was going to go crazy. Say, Itachi? Naruto had been quiet all day again, but he had been rather fidgety. Itachi had an idea of what the blonde was going to ask him, and right now, he really didn't mind. The constant shifting on his back was starting to annoy him. He had never met anyone as restless as Naruto was. If he had, they probably wouldn't have lived long enough to annoy him like his captive was doing right now. HN. Do you mind if we stop for a while? Or maybe. Fine, Itachi interrupted and leapt down from the treetops. We'll stop for an hour. Naruto, surprised by Itachi's quick agreement, jumped off of him when they were landed safely on the ground. He was still unsure of his limits, so he didn't want to risk hurting himself at the moment. Naruto put his arms up in the air and attempted to stretch out all the kinks in his body. With a yawn and a few cracks of his back, he was set to go. Now that feels better, Naruto looked at Itachi who stood stiffly beside him and frowned. You know? You can relax if you want. It's not going to kill you. Itachi didn't reply, but sat down anyways. He was tired and he could recover his chakra levels during this short period of rest. He gave Naruto a warning look before speaking. Don't stray too far, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded and smiled brightly. I'll be back before the hour's up. With that, Naruto darted into the surrounding forest. He thought that it was rather strange that Itachi allowed him to go off on his own. Maybe it was because the elder Uchiha knew that Naruto would only be able to get so far before being caught if he ran. After all, Itachi was the one out of the two of them that still had his chakra as well as a very active Manjiki Sharingan. Naruto also took note that he would also lose this little bit of freedom that the Uchiha allowed him before they reached wherever it was they were going. Naruto slowed his pace until he came to a stop. He was not going to live for very much longer. He had only days left until Kyuubi would be extracted. Naruto forced out a small chuckle in spite of himself. Would it hurt? Will I be alone? Even his own answers for those questions were not very encouraging. Yes. It was probably going to hurt like hell. Yes. I'm on my own this time. No one is coming for me because they don't care. Or because they have no idea where I am and who I'm with. Naruto believed that they just didn't know where he was, but a small part of him truly believed that no one cared. He had lived the better part of his life on his own. The treatment he received from the villagers didn't really help his situation either. He had always been alone, and he had thought he always would be. So, instead of dwelling on his insecurities and loneliness, Naruto did the only thing he thought would make things better. He built a mask. It was difficult at first. The tiniest thing would set him off and he'd have to rebuild it all over again. It took a few years, but Naruto had been able to perfect it. A mask of smiles, laughter, and hyperactive antics. That was the Naruto everyone knew. Right now, however, he was a far cry from smiles and laughter. "You're wasting your time standing there like that, Naruto-kun," a cold voice spoke from behind him. Naruto turned to see Itachi standing several feet behind him. His black and red cloak and the Konoha high tie had been removed. He was wearing what looked like regular Anbu garb minus the white vest and gloves. His feet donned the typical ninja issue sandals in black. His pants, also black, accentuated his long and muscled legs. The sleeveless, black shirt was lined with mesh and fit snugly against Itachi's strong torso. His beaded necklace glimmered in the sunlight, ebony hair billowing softly in the wind. Naruto realized then that he had not seen Itachi without his Akatsuki cloak and thought that the older man looked better without it. "Naruto," he said softly as he looked at Itachi. The questioning gaze from the elder Uchiha was the only response he got, so Naruto continued, "Just call me Naruto. The way you say it with the honorific is kind of creepy." Naruto laughed at the unexpected frown that formed on Itachi's face. It was comforting to know that there was more to Itachi than just cold indifference and duty. "You should frown more often. It suits you, Itachi." Naruto never ceased to surprise the Uchiha. He said the strangest things that, for some reason, made sense to him. Itachi was wary of the way Naruto had been acting, but the younger ninja's behavior seemed genuine. There was no falsehood. This was probably why the older man had allowed Naruto certain freedoms despite his captive status. He could trust that Naruto would not try to take advantage of said freedoms and run. There was also something else that compelled him allow this. At the moment, Itachi could not, for the life of him, figure out what it was. He may be a genius, but everyone has his flaws. Emotions just didn't come as easily to him as they do to others. That, though, had been forced upon him by the superiority and high expectations of the late Uchiha clan. Ninja are trained to hide their emotions. Exceptional Uchihas, on the other hand, do not have emotions. Emotions and feelings are useless and only hinder one's growth. Itachi had heard that same quote every day of his life until the massacre. He hated them, but like every exceptional Uchiha, he lived by them. "You are an enigma, Naruto," was Itachi's quiet response. "Eh? What's an enigma?" Naruto questioned, but Itachi had already left. The blonde shrugged his shoulders and decided to ignore the cryptic response. He had some energy to burn. The next day went by fairly quickly and they reached their destination close to sundown. Naruto had been quiet all day. Itachi had expected as much. The Jounin had proven his strength of mind about the whole situation. However, when it finally must have clicked that he was not going to live for much longer, Naruto's whole demeanor had changed. Itachi felt this rather than saw it. The younger man had loosened the hard grip on his shoulders and had subtly slipped his arms around Itachi's neck. Naruto's whole body had gone tense. Apprehension is what Itachi supposed, but the fact was he didn't know how to react to such a gesture. Naruto was hugging him. His captive was seeking comfort, and disguised it by the necessity to stay on the older man's back. He did not know why he did this, but Itachi tightened his grip on Naruto's legs briefly. The blonde seemed to understand and relaxed again. "Thank you," Naruto said quietly into Itachi's ear. The older man showed no sign of acknowledging what he had said, so Naruto turned and rested his head on Itachi's shoulder, looking anywhere but the direction in which they were heading. He didn't want to. Not yet. It felt like no time passed at all before Itachi spoke again. And the words were not what Naruto wanted to hear, but they were what he had expected. "We're here," he said, nodding towards the group of mountains that the pair were fast approaching. When Naruto turned to look at the home of the infamous Akatsuki, he was rather surprised, maybe disappointed, to find that it was only a mountain. He frowned. He had expected something a little more spectacular? Maybe malevolent? What he saw before him was a mountain like any other that was covered with trees. There was a rather large waterfall further to the east, and rocks. Lots of rocks. Naruto didn't really know what he was expecting, but just a mountain. He supposed that, logically, Akatsuki would want to keep a low profile. That made more sense. Itachi released Naruto's legs and allowed the younger man to get off of his back. "From here we walk," was all Itachi said. Naruto nodded and followed the older man towards the mountain. His time was slipping by faster than he had anticipated it would. It was a frightening thought, but from the looks of things, his end was inevitable. There was no way a rescue team would show up because they had no signature to follow. There was a chance that they may have been able to follow Itachi's signature, but the Uchiha had full chakra levels then. They were hidden so well that even Naruto had not been able to sense Itachi's presence. Naruto was so lost in his thoughts that he failed to notice the older man ahead of him stop abruptly. The blonde, much to his chagrin, walked into Itachi's back and fell ungracefully to the ground. He looked up at Itachi to glare at him, but when he saw the stiffened posture and defensive stance, he turned his attention to the direction in which the elder Uchiha was looking. The mountain they were heading to reeked of blood and death. Naruto followed Itachi as he led the way through the maze of caves within the mountain. Images of the person who had been quite literally shredded to pieces kept flashing through his mind. Naruto had seen a lot of violent things in his short life, but that had, by far, been the worst. When they had reached the entrance to the Akatsuki base, there had been signs of an intense fight. The result, which lay only meters away from where they had stood, was the body of one of the Akatsuki members. Tobi, whom Itachi had identified. Tobi's blood was everywhere. Unique patterns of blood spatter adorned the ground around a large pool of the liquid mixed with parts of Tobi's body. The walls were covered with countless spots of blood indicating that his attacker had been fast, striking the victim's body numerous amount of times before he had even fallen to the ground. The body was unrecognizable, but the Uchiha had been able to detect Tobi's fading chakra signature as well as an unknown one. The unfamiliar signature harbored so much power, it had made Itachi's skin tingle. And, whoever or whatever it was had entered the cave. Or rather, judging from the other familiar signatures, it was lured back in. As they followed the chakra trail deeper into the mountain, Naruto couldn't help but marvel at the numerous amount of caves they passed. He had never seen anything like it before and was surprised that anyone had been able to find their way through it at all. He supposed, though, that the Akatsuki were not just anyone. Naruto was itching to know more about this place, but with the present circumstances, it wasn't really a good idea to ask. Itachi quickened his pace, always wary of Naruto's presence close behind him. He was not sure if it was best to bring the blonde in here at the moment, but he really couldn't risk him running away. Naruto had promised him that he wouldn't run, but if given the chance, it was very possible that he would. He continued to scan for any of the other Akatsuki members but had so far found nothing. And then he felt it. A surge of chakra coming from the direction of the central cavern. With a speed rivaling no other, Itachi scooped Naruto into his arms and raced down a corridor to their left. "Hey! What the hell are you doing?" Naruto started to protest. "Quiet," Itachi ordered. Naruto frowned at the command, but nodded and obeyed. Whatever got the Uchiha so worked up must be pretty serious. It bothered him that he couldn't sense any chakra because he had no idea what the hell was going on. Naruto silently fumed as Itachi turned into an unlit cave. It was pitch black. Itachi set him on the ground and Naruto could hear him walking around like he could actually see where he was going. Suddenly, there was a flash of light that dimmed down to a dull red glow. "Here," Itachi said as he handed Naruto the candle and a kunai, "stay here and don't move. I'll be back for you later." Before Naruto could say anything, Itachi had disappeared down the corridor from which they had come from. The candle, he could understand, otherwise he would not have been able to see anything. Why Itachi had given him a kunai? Naruto did not know. Protection was the obvious answer, but protection from what? Naruto sighed as he looked at his surroundings. He was in a small cavern that contained absolutely nothing. Aside from the smell, the slimy stuff on the walls, and himself, the cavern was devoid of anything. He sat down and placed the candle in front of him. The light it gave off was rather eerie, but at least he wasn't completely engulfed in darkness. Boredom slowly settled in and Naruto was getting fidgety. He had started to consider making a run for it, but the idea of getting lost in the labyrinth of caves was not an appealing thought. Neither was the idea of breaking his promise. Even if it was Itachi whom he had made the promise to. Scrapping the escaping idea, Naruto's thoughts wandered over to the dead Akatsuki member. He suppressed a shudder. It wasn't really the time to think about such a disturbing thing. Naruto took a deep breath and calmed his racing thoughts. With nothing else to do but wait, he decided to assess his chakra levels or lack thereof. Maybe even try to figure out what Itachi had done. During that hour that the Uchiha had given him to burn off his energy, he was able to determine that he could still do a lot of what he used to. However, his strength was very limited. He also couldn't heal anymore with Kyuubi's chakra being completely blocked. To say the least, it kind of hurt when he had punched or kicked something solid. It bothered him to discover that he was also rather slow. No wonder Itachi carried him on his back. It would have taken them a hell of a lot longer to get here if he hadn't. Naruto was interrupted from his thoughts when he felt the ground tremble. Just what the hell was going on? Itachi had to go down 2 more levels before he could reach the central cavern. The correct path was practically branded into his mind, but the twists and turns were slowing him down. He had decided right then that the labyrinth of caves was an inconvenience. The entire mountain shook again, interrupting Itachi from his thoughts. The entrance to the central cavern was only 20 meters away. The dust from fallen rocks clouded the air and made it difficult to breathe. Itachi covered his mouth and slowed down. He quickly scanned the cavern for his comrades and stealthily made his way over towards the closest signature. The Uchiha remained ever wary of the unknown source of chakra near the center of the cavern. The cloud of dust prevented him from seeing it, but Itachi was very certain of who it was. Running a little behind, Uchiha-san, Kisame grumbled. The shark-like man appeared to be exhausted and very low on chakra. His Akatsuki cloak was torn in random places. The larger tears revealed several deep gashes along Kisame's torso that were bleeding profusely. There were also some small gashes on the shark-like man's face and all along his arms. Itachi noted that Kisame was not holding his blade, Samahada. To be able to separate that weapon from its owner was not a simple task. Itachi determined the four-tailed demon they were dealing with was not as weak as they had anticipated. He could feel the weak chakra signatures of the remaining Akatsuki members. 2 more were missing, and counting Tobi, 3 Akatsuki members had been taken out by this one Bijou. I was not given a time limit. Humph. Well, the boss should have given you one. That bitch, Kisame nodded towards the figure amidst all the dust, has been nothing but trouble. What happened? Itachi asked quietly as he gauged his own recovering chakra levels. Dunno. The boss says I may have performed the sealing wrong and it backfired, Kisame scoffed. 1 minute she was practically helpless, the next, there was a huge surge of chakra and the demon was out and killed 2 of us. Tobi got wounded and ran out, the idiot, and the thing followed him only to catch a hold of him at the entrance. I've seen. I figured you would. So that's 3 of us gone now. But it's not like we really needed them anyways. Kisame allowed himself to chuckle, then continued. We managed to lure her back into the mountain, but we've only been able to barely contain her here. We aren't strong enough to immobilize her. I don't know where she got all that extra power, but she's put up one hell of a fight and she's still got lots of chakra to spare. The boss has been preparing barriers, but none of them have worked so far. Itachi nodded and processed this new information. If Kisame had performed the sealing wrong and the weaker 4 tails had turned out like this, what would happen with Naruto and the 9 tails? He was sure that he had performed the sealing correctly, but if he didn't, the result could be disastrous. Far worse than what he was seeing now. In the blink of an eye, the female Bijou darted towards Deidara. The demon was fast. The blonde Akatsuki member stood defensively, waiting for the impending attack. It never came. Instead, she missed the blonde on purpose and rammed into the cavern wall, causing the whole mountain to shake. She then pushed herself away from the wall and rushed towards Itachi and Kisame. Both men jumped out of the way as she rammed into the wall behind them. Itachi watched as the demon glared at him and his partner until she caught a scent in the air. She sniffed the air and growled. Itachi activated his Sharingan only to find that the demon had moved again. He scanned the cavern for her. She was gone. Damn it! She got out! Kisame cursed. Itachi froze when he realized it. There was only one other scent that she could have smelled, and he was not in this room. Naruto, was all Itachi said before taking off after the demon, the rest of the Akatsuki following close behind. The Bijou must have been able to smell the 9 tails. Knowing exactly how 2 demons interact from experience, Itachi knew that Naruto was not safe at the moment. That female was going to hunt the blonde down and kill him. When the tremors had stopped, Naruto had been sure that the battle was over and Itachi would be coming for him any minute. What he didn't expect was the sound of something making sniffing noises, a growl, and a pair of green slitted eyes. Naruto's eyes widened when a creature walked into the dim light. As it edged close to him with 4 tails swaying through the air, immediately identifying it as a Bijou. 4 tails swayed through the air as the wolf demon edged closer to Naruto. It stopped not 2 feet from the blonde and eyed its prey. It was a rather small demon. It looked exactly like a wolf, but slightly bigger. And compared to Kyuubi's size, this one was kind of run-like. However, Naruto would not underestimate this one. Its fur was sleek and appeared to be black, but he couldn't really tell with the dim light. It sort of held an air of superiority and pride, which showed in the way it carried itself. If the situation was not as it was at the moment, Naruto would have thought the creature quite beautiful. But there was something off about it. Naruto watched in slight awe as the red light started to dim. The wolf was pulling in the chakra that kept the light going. Odd. Naruto was confused as to why the four tails was running loose within the lair of the Akatsuki and standing in front of him, ready to attack. The Akatsuki couldn't have lost, could they? At the moment, Naruto found that scenario very likely. Once again, he found himself at the mercy of a being stronger than him. If he had his chakra, he would have definitely stood a chance. But in the state he was in now, Naruto could not possibly live through this. Here goes nothing, he sighed and quickly grabbed for the kunai. The instant that Naruto moved, the wolf demon attacked. He was, however, not able to move fast enough and the bija had got a hold of his forearm. It hurt and he cried out, but the pain was bearable and Naruto counterattacked and managed to slice the demon's snout. When his arm was released, he jumped to the side and slowly backed away from the wolf. He ignored the blood that was flowing down his arm and dripping to the cavern floor. Naruto had no idea what he did to piss this thing off, but it looked as if it was ready to attack again. And the look in its eyes spoke of its bloodlust. This time, however, Naruto struck first. He missed and the wolf grabbed his other arm, biting viciously into it. He tried to impale the kunai within her skull, but she jumped back and threw him against a stone wall. The impact was unimaginably painful. Naruto hurt everywhere, and his head was spinning. When he tried to stand, he fell back against the wall and tried to focus on his attacker. As soon as the demon was about to strike again, it stopped, growling and glaring at the black-clad figure now standing between herself and her prey. Naruto stared wide-eyed at Itachi's back. He had not expected any help to come, and seeing the Uchiha in front of him now had sent a wave of relief to wash over him. He honestly thought that he was going to die and end up in much the same state as that Tobi guy. Wait. Was he really ready to give up his life at the hands of the Akatsuki? Naruto shook his head and pushed his thoughts to the back of his mind. Now was not the time to get emotional and ask questions. He had no idea how Itachi was going to deal with a bija on his own, especially this one. He had yet to see the Uchiha use his full power. Itachi was strong, but Naruto was well aware of the older man's limits. He was also well aware that Itachi was not fully recovered. "You're late, Uchiha." Naruto had no idea if he was trying to be funny or not. Was Itachi's creative response. "Your wounds?" "I'm fine." Itachi didn't say any more. Instead, he focused his attention on the black female wolf in front of him. The others should be arriving soon. He had lost the rest of the Akatsuki within that damned labyrinth of caves in his rush to get to Naruto. If the wolf killed the fox, their cause would be lost. Somehow, in some way, that thought bothered the Uchiha, and he did not know why. In that instant, the wolf lunged at Itachi. He pushed Naruto to the side and managed to dodge her attack. He countered with a kunai to her ribs. She cried out in pain and lunged again with a speed faster than Itachi could have imagined. He was too slow to evade this attack and she managed to grab his shoulder. He winced at the pain, but sliced her side in that same moment. Another howl of pain filled the cavern and the demon relinquished her grip. Itachi backed up until he brushed up against Naruto. Never taking his eyes off of the wolf, he slipped behind the blonde and wrapped his good arm around Naruto's waist in a firm grip. Itachi could sense the other Akatsuki members fast approaching chakra and he knew the wolf did too. Itachi?" Naruto asked. Despite the darkness, he tried to suppress the blush that refused to disappear. Naruto could not help but be aware of their close proximity, and the almost possessive grip the Uchiha had on him. "Quiet." Naruto was just about to protest when several other people burst into the small cavern. They formed a circle around the wolf and started to initiate several different hand seals. It became apparent that they were performing a barrier jutsu when a yellow sphere began to form around the panicking wolf. "Itachi-san? Get the 9 tails out of here. We cannot risk losing the final Jinchuriki," said a man to Naruto's right. Itachi nodded and tightened his grip around Naruto's waist. In an instant, Naruto found himself being carried out of the glowing cavern and away from the ensuing chaos. He was curious as to why the four-tailed demon was able to cause the Akatsuki so much trouble. Naruto made a mental note to ask Itachi later. If he had the chance to anyway. He didn't know where they were going, but it seemed that Itachi was going in an upwards direction. "Where are we going?" Naruto asked quietly. He was becoming more and more aware of the pain from his wounds. They were deep and hadn't stopped bleeding. His body ached and his head was still spinning. Naruto wasn't used to this. Kyuubi would have healed them by now, and there wouldn't even been too much pain. "Out of here," Itachi answered. Naruto nodded and felt something wet on his head. He reached over with his hand and gently felt Itachi's shoulder. "You're wounded." Itachi didn't even bother answering. He could sense the battle continuing below. The Akatsuki seemed to be gaining the upper hand. The Four Tails chakra was weakening. They had most likely been able to trap the demon within a stronger barrier, and he could no longer feel the wolf's chakra. Had they killed her? Suddenly, a pulse of chakra struck them. It was so strong that Itachi had lost his footing and he and Naruto were thrown into a crumpled heap on the cave floor. Broken fragments of rock were crashing down from the ceiling as another wave struck them. Ow! Naruto moaned as he rubbed his throbbing head. That was a little unexpected. Get up. We have to move. Now, Itachi said darkly. Just give me a sec. No time, Itachi interrupted and picked the blonde up to continue their way out. The falling debris was making their escape difficult. Itachi had to concentrate on dodging the bigger rocks and managed to stay on the correct path at the same time. The dust was not making things any easier either. Naruto was able to keep his eyes closed, but breathing was becoming difficult. He didn't complain though, and he wouldn't complain later either. Naruto was well aware that Itachi was having it worse off than him. The Uchiha's eyes were still open, they had to be. And for all the running he was doing at the moment, Itachi was sucking in a lot more of the dust. They had one more level to climb before they reached the entrance, and the caves were going to collapse at any moment. Itachi hoisted Naruto over one shoulder and performed several hand seals. Ack! What the hell are you doing? Naruto shouted over the noise of the rumbling mountain. Suddenly, a blue light engulfed the pair and Naruto's eyes widened in realization. A barrier? Itachi felt no need to respond. Another thing he had noticed about Naruto was that he was prone to stating the obvious, and Itachi found it best not to even bother answering his questions. They were almost out, and he need not waste his breath. There. The entrance was in sight. There was another, impossibly strong shockwave of chakra and Itachi was thrown forward again. He kept a firm grip around Naruto, and heard him shout something before they were engulfed in a roaring darkness. 1 week ago. Sasuke groaned angrily and threw a pillow over his head. Someone was knocking on his door. They had been knocking on his door for the last few minutes. Whoever it wasn't Naruto. As much as he wished it was, the dobe would have already been jumping on his bed in an attempt to get the irate Uchiha up and out of the house. Naruto had stated, more than once and very publicly, that Uchiha Sasuke was indeed not a morning person, especially since it wasn't even sunrise. After all, his blonde friend had been on the receiving end of Sasuke's infamous morning attitude countless times and even resulted in a black eye or two. Broadcasting his sleeping habits to the village was Naruto's way of revenge for the aforementioned black eyes. Sasuke cursed loudly when the knocking persisted. He hoped that whoever was outside had said their goodbyes because they were not going to live very much longer. After a few more agonizing minutes, the knocking stopped. Sasuke relaxed again and was about to go to sleep when he heard a gentle, but firm tap on his window. I can't fucking believe this, Sasuke growled as he turned to murder the person who had so eloquently decided to ruin his day, which hadn't even started. Sasuke looked at the clock, then looked outside. It was still dark out. The younger Uchiha was infuriated to see Kakashi waving at him from the tree branch outside his window. It figures that Kakashi would be the only one brave enough to disturb him. Pushing himself out of bed, Sasuke strode over to the window and opened it to allow the older jounin in. It's 12 o'clock in the damn morning. What do you want, Kakashi? Sasuke asked as he put on a robe adorning his family crest. No one should be anywhere near the Uchiha compound. Kakashi chuckled. I knew you weren't a morning person, but this is rather extreme, don't you think? Sasuke threw his ex-sensei another glare. The middle of the night is not what I call the morning. What do you want? The Hokage wishes to see you. It's about Naruto. A dark look quickly passed over Kakashi's face, but was gone just as fast as it appeared. Sasuke noticed it anyways. Something was wrong. I'll leave immediately. I suggest you shower and change first. I don't think you'd want to attend a meeting looking and smelling like that, Kakashi said, emphasizing his statement by wafting the air in front of his face. Hokage-sama is busy with another matter at the moment. The meeting isn't for another half hour. Sasuke heard the finality in Kakashi's voice and nodded in understanding. He took the older jounin's advice, grabbed some clothes and walked into the bathroom to shower. The Uchiha knew that Naruto could hold his own in any fight. The training regimen that they had put together for themselves was rigorous and strict. It was a combination of both parties' experience in the field during the past 7 years and by-the-book battle sequences. They had also taught each other the jutsus that were learned during their time apart, as well as learning new ones. Sasuke had also practically drilled the concept of tactics and planning into Naruto's brain. His goal was to quell the blonde's natural urge to act on instinct. Naruto had proved countless times that acting on impulses worked, but when he had learned to stop and think ahead first, he had grown exponentially. To top everything off, they had incorporated taijutsu training with Lee, endurance training, and finally, sparring into their regimen. Each time they sparred, they would change a habit or utilize a new move or jutsu to make their spar more interesting and that much more difficult. It had been a tough 3 years so far, but the results were very commendable. Sasuke and Naruto were now ranked within the higher levels of Jounin. They were elite. No. Sasuke had no worries about Naruto losing a fight. He didn't know why, but something was off. Even if Naruto had gotten into a fight, the ANBU would have been there to assist him. He had been aware of the ANBU guards for quite some time. The Hokage had confirmed their orders and the reasoning why Naruto needed guards. Sasuke had been angry with her for not giving Naruto enough credit, but he supposed that it was necessary. This was why he agreed to be one of Naruto's guards. If Akatsuki ever came for his friend, then Konoha would have fair warning and would be prepared to defend Naruto and their village. Sasuke sighed as he shut the shower off. He had no idea what to expect at the meeting, but he assured himself that Naruto would be there. He quickly finished dressing and walked back to his room where Kakashi had been waiting. Ready to go? The older man asked as he put away his book. HN. Let's go then, Kakashi said in his most cheerful voice. He knew what awaited Sasuke in that meeting, and it was not going to be pleasant. Tsunade sighed. Tired fingers rubbed at the throbbing headache she had for the last few hours. She had not had a moment's rest since Naruto's ANBU guards had told her of his disappearance. During their report, they had stated that they seen the Uchiha arrive at his home after sundown, alone. The team then split up and surveyed the town, the direction from which Sasuke had come from, then the area surrounding Konoha. There was no sign of Naruto except for his discarded Hitachi and an unknown chakra signature. Kakashi, whom she had sent to scan the area soon after, had identified the unknown signature as Uchiha Itachi's. Tsunade had not been pleased. She was angry that she hadn't added more ANBU guards for Naruto around the clock, but that was why she had the Uchiha assigned to this special case. As per their agreement, Uchiha Sasuke was Naruto's guard during the day and on missions. Naruto had never been on a mission alone, and she was relieved that Naruto had never questioned this. The two approaching chakra signatures and a gentle knock on her door signaled Kakashi and Sasuke's arrival. Replacing her worried features with her mask of authority, Tsunade acknowledged their presence. Come in, both of you. She watched as Kakashi walked in, his nose in that damn pervert's book again, with Sasuke. Tsunade assumed Sasuke was not aware of the situation considering his look of indifference. When both men had taken a seat in front of her, she took a deep breath and began. Sasuke. Naruto is missing. She paused and waited for the impending outburst. Excuse me? Did he hear her correctly? Sasuke frowned. I hope this isn't a joke, Hokage-sama. If it were only a joke, Uchiha, she retorted, I received a report a short while after sundown that Naruto was nowhere to be found. This, Tsunade placed a familiar object on the table, was all they found. He stared at Naruto's Hitachi in disbelief. Then, he felt the guilt wash over him. He looked up at Tsunade. This is my fault. Tsunade was shocked to hear the admission, but both she and Kakashi knew that there was a lot more to this than just a simple mistake. She continued, You are not completely at fault here, Sasuke. Naruto is ultimately my responsibility. As Hokage, I have both failed our future Rokugan and the village. Sasuke looked up in surprise at her statement. Naruto was really going to be the next Hokage? Tsunade smiled softly. I had chosen him for the position long ago, when we first met. That boy has amazing potential. Now, back to the present. There is also something else you should know. When Naruto's ANBU guards found his Hitachi, they could sense Naruto's chakra signature and an unknown one as well. Sasuke nodded, not liking where this was going. I summoned Kakashi to go investigate immediately, and he identified the unknown signature as Uchiha Itachi's. Sasuke froze. His fist clenched as red-hot anger boiled in his veins at the mere mention of his older brother. The Uchiha's whole body was tense and shook with rage. He looked back at Tsunade with Sharingan-red eyes and spoke quietly yet with enough venom to startle the older woman. Where are they? Kakashi placed a gentle hand on Sasuke's shoulder. It was for both comfort and a silent warning. He removed it when Sasuke relaxed. We don't know, Sasuke, Kakashi answered. I sent my dogs after their scent, but we lost it at the river. None of us couldn't even detect his chakra. Itachi is well aware of my tracking skills, and this time, I'm afraid, he managed to outdo me. Sasuke nodded silently. Naruto was gone. He sat and stared at the abandoned cave entrance, ignoring the slight pain of his right cheek. He knew it would have been empty, but they had no leads or any clue whatsoever as to Naruto's possible whereabouts. Kakashi had said that this was where Gaara's bijou had been extracted, and it could have been possible that it was where Itachi had taken Naruto. A letter had been sent to Gaara to notify him of the situation, and he had met Sasuke's team at the aforementioned cave. The Kazekage had been seething with anger, and their greeting had not gone well. The result? A large bruise forming on Sasuke's face. He had not even bothered to fight back. He knew how much Naruto meant to Gaara. If he was honest with himself, Sasuke would acknowledge the fact that he was slightly jealous of Naruto's friendship with Gaara. They shared a bond far different from the one that he had with Naruto. Sasuke and Gaara, even after all the time that's passed, had never gotten along. The Uchiha had attempted a stilted conversation with the Sannin, but it resulted in an unrestrained battle that Naruto had to break up forcefully. It was by chance that they were not in a public area. If they had been, the outcome would have certainly cost lives. Sasuke let his thoughts disperse when he felt Gaara's approaching chakra signature. He didn't turn to acknowledge the Kazekage's presence even when the redhead sat down beside him. They were silent for a long time, sharing the view of the vacant mountain. "I apologize," Gaara finally spoke. "For what?" "For taking my anger out on you." HN. They remained quiet after that, each lost in his own thoughts. Sasuke and his team had to head back to Konoha. There were no other leads here, and hopefully someone had found something back home. "It's been a week," Gaara said in a quiet voice. The statement caught Sasuke by surprise, but he let the redhead continue. "When they took me, Shikaka was extracted from me in less that time." Sasuke nodded but didn't respond to the fact. He did not dare acknowledge the possibility that Naruto was already dead. The mere idea of it seemed wrong in every way. Itachi would pay for this 1,000 times over. "I can help you until I am called back to Suna." Gaara moved to stand up. "I'll have Temari and Kankura replace me while I am gone." "Thank you," Sasuke said sincerely. The sudden whoosh of sand indicated that Gaara had left his spot beside the Uchiha. "Sasuke-kun?" Sasuke turned to see Sakura behind him. "We'll be leaving for Konoha in a few minutes." "HN," he grunted and turned away. Sakura stared at his back. Sasuke was taking this harder than anyone else. She was afraid for Naruto, but she also feared what would happen to Sasuke if they did not find the missing blonde. He had been so distant this past week and angry. Very angry. She was well aware of the circumstances of Naruto's abduction and who it was that had taken him. With one last look at her leader and friend, she turned and walked back to the group. The earth trembled as the entire mountain appeared to collapse and break apart. Newly formed boulders crashed through what was left of the forest, and down to the valley floor. What was once a mountain now appeared to be a giant pile of rubble. When everything seemed to calm down, there was another rumbling within the debris. A loud explosion echoed within the valley and a blue globe emerged from amidst the rocks. As the dust faded, two figures could be seen climbing down what was left of the mountain. When they reached the ground, Naruto took a look at the chaos behind him. His eyes widened at the sight. There were several large landslides along the base that had most obviously torn apart the forest in their wake. The waterfall was gone, buried beneath mud and rock. They had just gotten out of that. What the hell happened down there? Naruto breathed out, wincing slightly from his wounds. HN. They failed, was all Itachi said as he walked away. He had wounds to deal with, and so did Naruto. And it would be best if they did not linger here in case Rocknin came to investigate the area. Naruto followed without question. It seemed kind of heartless that Itachi would just leave like that. They were his teammates after all. There was no way Naruto would ever abandon his teammates. Then again, Naruto wouldn't kill his own family either. So why? Itachi sensed Naruto's calculating stare and spoke quietly. There were no emotional ties, Naruto. They only served to weaken oneself. Naruto was surprised at the unexpected response. And it only fueled more questions about the Uchiha. "Oh," Naruto said and left it at that. Itachi led them through the thick forest until they came upon a small stream. The older man stopped and removed his ruined cloak, exposing the wound he received from the wolf. His black, sleeveless shirt was torn where the teeth had sliced through his skin. Naruto saw that it was still bleeding, but could be easily mended. He looked at his own wounds and grimaced. Where Itachi's cloak had shielded his injuries from the rocks and dirt, Naruto's torn jacket did quite the opposite. There was a lot of grit and dirt to remove, and he was very certain that it was going to hurt. A lot. Itachi removed a pouch from his belt and examined its contents. He grabbed a small bottle of antiseptic and walked over to Naruto. "Sit down. Those need to be cleaned before I try to heal them." Itachi nodded towards Naruto's injuries. "Remove your jacket." The blonde complied and took off his ruined jacket before he sat down. Itachi knelt beside him and looked over each of the bites. He deduced that the wound on Naruto's upper arm was worse than the one on his forearm. Taking out a clean cloth from his medical pouch, Itachi poured antiseptic on it and then some over each of the teeth marks on Naruto's upper arm. Naruto clenched his teeth as his whole body tensed up. Shit, did it ever sting? He watched silently as Itachi gently wiped away all the foreign debris with the cloth. Naruto took a moment to notice how graceful the older man's actions were, precise and fluid. When Itachi had finished cleaning, he placed a hand over the injury that began to release a soft green glow. However, the healing chakra was immediately absorbed into Naruto's body, faster than the Uchiha was releasing it. Itachi pulled away and looked at the blonde. Naruto was in a daze. As soon as the chakra hit his skin, his stomach started to warm up and it left him feeling light-headed and tingly. Lay down, Itachi ordered. Naruto looked at the older man dumbly. Huh? Itachi pushed the blonde to the ground and lifted up his shirt. Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing? Naruto shouted, snapping back to reality as he tried to pull his shirt back down. Quiet and stay still, the Uchiha said with a low and commanding tone. Naruto stopped squirming and turned away to hide his pink-tinged cheeks as Itachi studied his stomach. As the older man suspected, the seal was visible and glowing green with the healing chakra it absorbed. Before he reached down to touch it, he took note of the intense heat it radiated. That same heat pulsed through his fingertips on contact and seemed to pull and tug at every bit of chakra he had. Itachi jerked his hand away from Naruto and saw that the blonde had passed out. He had no idea what was going on, but it was becoming more and more apparent that the seal may be starting to backfire. If that happened, they needed to be at a more secluded area where there would be no chance of other nin interfering. They were going to need supplies, and with nowhere to stay, they'll have to camp. Itachi was a little unnerved at the fact that he had no idea what was wrong with the seal to make it backfire in such a way. Naruto may or may not end up like the Four Tails, but either way, it was going to be an intense fight. A fight that may be very worthwhile. Itachi took out some gauze from his pouch and finished cleaning and dressing Naruto's wounds before he went about mending his own. Naruto's wounds would have to heal the old-fashioned way. Itachi was slightly amused at the fact that Naruto would probably be getting his first scars from battle. He assumed the fox had healed any other wounds the blonde received during his short life, leaving no scars. Naruto mumbled something in his sleep, distracting Itachi from his thoughts. He reached over and lifted the blonde's shirt to check the seal. It was still radiating a lot of heat, but the glow was gone. A seal that was able to contain chakra and even absorb chakra from a foreign source. Very interesting and potentially dangerous. He would have to keep his own chakra use to a minimum around the blonde until he knew more about how the seal worked. For now, they needed to find a safer place to rest. They were still too close to the base. Itachi checked Naruto's seal one last time. The heat would be bearable, but he would not be able to use any chakra in case the seal reactivates and absorbs it. With that, Itachi hoisted Naruto onto his back and took off into the forest. Naruto found himself walking a familiar path through a cave he knew all too well. Realizing this, he started running. When he reached his destination, he stopped dead. The cage stood in front of him, and that was normal enough, but it was the purple orb of fire spinning where Yandame's seal had been that surprised him. He slowly moved closer to the globe to examine it. Amidst all of the flames, Naruto could just make out the fourth seal. But every time the orb made a complete rotation, he could see a second seal. Is that Itachi's? He asked out loud and to no one in particular. Brat? A familiar voice called out. Naruto shook himself out of his stupor, looked past the fire and into the cage. He could see red eyes glowing within the darkness. I couldn't even sense you were here. Damn seal, the fox cursed. Are you okay? Naruto asked. Not once in my entire existence have I ever felt this weak. She was angry. I am unable to heal myself or you because I have no chakra, brat. I am far from okay. Is this, he pointed at the flames, Itachi's seal? Itachi? Is this Itachi the one who did this to us? She was absolutely livid. Yeah, he did. Naruto was a little unnerved. It had been a long time since he had witnessed the fox's anger. A small part of him was glad that she didn't have any chakra at the moment. Who is Itachi? She asked, walking out of the darkness. Well, Naruto began, I got abducted and then Itachi put this seal on us and brought me to the Earth Country. What else? Naruto's expression hardened. You were going to be extracted from me. Itachi is with the Akatsuki. Ah, I remember now. He is the Uchiha brat's older brother. Am I correct? Yeah, Naruto's hands tightened around the cage when thoughts of his friend and Konoha flashed through his mind. What else happened? She softened her voice when she saw the sadness cross Naruto's features. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but something went wrong with the Four Tails. Itachi said the seal they placed on her backfired and they lost control of it. She attacked them, and then she came after me. I really thought I was going to die. Itachi was able to hold her off until the others arrived. Then he was told to get me out of there, but the mountain collapsed before we reached the entrance. But you're still alive, she commented. He chuckled, yeah? Itachi had created a barrier around us and blasted our way out. He saved you? She inquired. Naruto had to think about that for a moment before he responded, yeah, he did. Twice, actually. And the Akatsuki? I think they're dead. They were still farther inside when the mountain collapsed. I see. Do not underestimate them, brat. For all we know, they could still be alive. It would explain why the Uchiha has not let you go yet, she said in a more serious tone. Naruto nodded and considered Kyuubi's words. They made a lot of sense, but he wouldn't know for sure until he woke up. Naruto decided to keep that possibility in mind in case Itachi didn't let him go. He looked up at the seals and another thought occurred to him. Why exactly am I here? I tried to contact you before, but I couldn't, he asked, turning to look at the fox. Well, what happened before you found yourself here? Kyuubi retorted, irritated at Naruto's sudden stupidity. It's not like I can see or hear anything going on outside. Naruto blushed and scratched the back of his head. Oh. Sorry about that. Itachi started to heal my wounds with his chakra and I started to feel weird. My stomach felt really warm and my whole body tingled. I got a little hazy after that and then, before I knew what happened, Itachi pushed me down and pulled up my shirt. He touched the seals and then I passed out. I think the Uchiha may have some idea as to what is happening to you and I could ask him, Naruto suggested. Would he tell you? He chuckled, maybe not right away. Kyuubi snorted, now he's got leverage over you. What is it with you and Uchihas anyways? Naruto frowned, shut up. It's not like it's my fault. You better get back now, brat. And Naruto? Yeah? Be careful. I don't trust this Uchiha either. Naruto smiled at her, I will. He watched as Kyuubi and the seals vanished, and in their place was a star-filled sky. Naruto sat up slowly and took in his surroundings. He was still in the forest, but not at the stream he and Itachi had stopped at. The older man must have moved him while he was out. There was a small fire to his left that happened to be cooking hopefully his dinner. It was only one fish, so he hoped that he didn't have to share with Itachi. Naruto was happy when he saw the remains of what must have been the Uchiha's dinner. This other fish was all his for the taking. The blonde was practically drooling. Any thought of where exactly Itachi was flew out the window when Naruto got a hold of the fish. He hadn't realized just how hungry he was until now. Itachi had only given him travel rations before. Naruto chuckled at the fact that no one at home could witness this once-in-a-lifetime moment. Uzumaki Naruto had not realized he was hungry. Speaking of Itachi, where was he? Naruto threw the fish bones beside the fire and looked around the small camp for the Uchiha. He found him leaning against a tree. Asleep? The older man wasn't wearing his cloak either. Naruto stood up and realized exactly where the missing cloak was. Itachi must have covered him with the black garment. Naruto allowed a small smile to grace his lips as he walked over to the older man. Kneeling beside him, he covered Itachi with his cloak, but before he could move away, a strong hand grabbed his wrist and kept him in place. Naruto didn't struggle as Itachi studied him with blazing eyes. The blonde returned Itachi's gaze, showing the older man he had no ulterior intentions. Naruto sat down when the grip on his wrist loosened. You need to relax a bit more. He almost laughed at the older man's expected response, HN. Sasuke had stopped his team to set up camp about 1 day from Konoha. They were in a hurry, but everyone was still exhausted from their rush trip to the Wind Country. As reluctant as he was, Sasuke deemed the rest necessary. Gaara was displeased with the order and had taken to meditating in the tree they had camped under. When he had received word that Naruto was missing, Gaara had immediately ordered several scouting teams to set out for the various surrounding countries. It was highly unlikely that they would find him, but it was all he could do for his friend. And it made him feel useless and unworthy. That's why he had decided to meet with the Uchiha at the abandoned Akatsuki base where Shikaku had been extracted. He left Temari to deal with his Kazekage duties and took Kankura and his team with him. He did not know the circumstances of how it was that Naruto was kidnapped in the first place, but he had a feeling the Uchiha was partly responsible. He and Sasuke really could never get along. A small smile formed itself on his face at the thought of Naruto stating that he could care less if he and Sasuke got along or not. The blonde had been rather amused with their constant fighting. Sometimes, the idiot would even join in. That was so Naruto. "Gaara-san?" a voice asked from the base of the tree. Interrupted from his thoughts, the redhead glanced down at the Sasuke look-alike. Sigh. He didn't like this one either. He reminded him of Sasuke, except he was openly perverted and said even ruder things. Gaara never took the time to get to know this friend of Naruto's. He'd rather not. He waited for Sai to state what he wanted. "Dinner is ready," the brunette smiled. Gaara nodded before disappearing in a gust of sand and reappearing at their small camp. Sakura looked up and smiled at the Kazekage. "Hello, Gaara-san." "Sakura," he said quietly as he sat down. He didn't bother to address the Uchiha. He had deducted years ago that there was no need to acknowledge the younger man. He assumed Sasuke had come to that conclusion as well. The four shinobi ate in silence, each of them concerned about what news awaited them in Konoha the next day. Naruto woke the next morning and groaned. That wolf really did a number on him. Why the hell hadn't he noticed before? When he looked around, it appeared that Itachi had already cleaned up most of their camp and had breakfast prepared. Fish. As he ate in silence, Naruto silently wondered if Itachi had a thing for fishing. Or maybe, he ran out of travel rations. The blonde chuckled. "Finish your food. We have to leave soon," he heard Itachi say from behind him. Naruto looked back at him with a questioning gaze, the half-eaten fish hanging from his mouth. And for some unfathomable reason, Itachi found the sight rather amusing. He waited for the blonde to acknowledge what he said before cleaning up the rest of their camp. They had to move quickly. While Naruto slept, Itachi had gone back towards the former Akatsuki base. There were no signs of life, but with all the rock and the leftover chakra from the four tails, he could not tell. Also, the oncoming unknown chakra signatures indicated that Rock Nin were already deployed to investigate the area. He left the site as soon as he sensed them. Itachi's depleted chakra had already started to recover, but not quite enough to move as fast as he'd like to. Naruto would not be able to move very fast either. Along with the wounds on his arms, the Uchiha had seen a large bruise on the blonde's back. Most likely from the wolf. "Are you able to run on your own today?" Itachi asked. Naruto had finished eating his fish and was attempting to alleviate the slight pain from his back. His arms he could deal with, but shit did his back hurt. He was certain there was a nasty-looking bruise there too. "Eh? Oh. I'll be fine. You must be tired from carrying me around all over the place anyways," Naruto answered. "We need to cover a lot of distance today. The nearest town is about 15 miles west." "I think I can handle it," Naruto smiled weakly. To be honest, he wasn't so sure he'd be able to travel very far. And his own stubbornness and pride would not let him admit this to the elder Uchiha. Well, not yet anyways. It was going to be a rough day. Itachi wasn't convinced, but he decided to humor the blonde and let him travel on his own. For now. He suspected that Naruto would start to slow them down after a few miles. And by then, Itachi should have recovered enough to carry the blonde most of the rest of the way. They would probably reach the town by the next day if Naruto managed to travel a reasonable distance on his own. Itachi nodded at the blonde, then took off, not bothering to check to see if Naruto was following. He didn't have to. They walked in silence as they exited the dense forest. Itachi was impressed with how far Naruto had managed to travel before he ended up carrying the blonde on his back. Naruto had been stubborn at first and refused the offer. He didn't last any longer than that though and had ended up on Itachi's back anyways. "Wow. This is the town?" Naruto asked, his voice filled with awe. Itachi looked over at the rambunctious blonde and nodded. The town was not as large as Konoha, but it was a fair size. And big enough to get lost in. Mikagishi. Despite its location, it was a peaceful and prosperous town. Itachi was not too fond of the friendliness of the people, but he tolerated it. Or rather, he had to tolerate it. There were several particular vendors that the Akatsuki dealt with over the last few years. Vendors that didn't ask questions and did what they were told. Disreputable characters to the general public, but loyal. "What are we doing here anyways?" Naruto asked, practically glowing with excitement. "Are we gonna eat? I'm starving. Is there ramen? I want ramen. Miso pork, to be exact. Hey! Are you listening?" "No," Itachi said bluntly. Naruto's face fell and he pouted with a whine. "Well, then what are we gonna do? I'm hungry." The Uchiha considered not answering, but one look at the pouting blonde forced an answer out of him. He knew immediately that Naruto would bombard him with more questions if he didn't answer. I have some business to do first. After that, we need to get clothing and a bath. Then we eat. Naruto was quiet for a moment, absorbing Itachi's words. Ramen? Itachi nodded after considering all of the possible scenarios if he answered in the negative. He didn't like any of them. Naruto whooped his victory and practically bounced all the way to the village. Tired as he was, the blonde once again proved just how limitless his energy was. Well, Itachi supposed, it could also be in regards to the promise of ramen. The hustle and bustle of the town was something that Itachi had grown accustomed to over the last few years. He weaved his way through the countless people, making sure that Naruto was never too far behind. There were constant smiling faces directed towards himself and the blonde. Itachi frowned. Once again, these people proved to be too happy. Not once had he ever acknowledged anyone, but the vendors he dealt with, and yet, everyone seemed to smile. Some of the braver ones even managed a greeting. Itachi turned back to see that Naruto had stopped following him. Instead, the blonde was standing in the middle of the street, and was glancing back and forth between the passing people. He looked like he was lost. The Uchiha walked back and stood in front of Naruto. He was a little unnerved at the fact that the blonde had not even noticed his presence. He noted that Naruto had stopped glancing at the people and instead focused his gaze to the ground in front of him. That bouncy, hyperactive personality long forgotten, Itachi raised his hand and tipped the blonde's chin up so that he was looking into Naruto's eyes. The usual bright blue seemed dulled and worn out in some way as he studied the downcast features of his captive. The slight frown was the only other indication that Naruto was troubled about something. Or was it sadness? Having never experienced the feeling before, he honestly did not know. This look in Naruto's eyes was different from when the blonde had accepted his inevitable fate. It appeared to Itachi that Naruto had experienced this sadness many times before. He presumed it was because of the bijou, and for some reason, he was curious about it. He wanted to know why Naruto was feeling this way now. He also wanted to know why he, Uchiha Itachi, was curious about this in the first place. Itachi realized that he didn't have an answer to this particular question. He had never really been curious about other people. He never cared before, so why now? He watched as Naruto's eyes seemed to focus again, and finally noticed his presence and close proximity. Itachi expected Naruto to jump back in surprise and even attempt to hit him. It never came. Instead, the blonde stared back with that calculating gaze that Itachi had gotten used to this past week. Maybe we should eat first, the Uchiha suggested. The change was instantaneous. Naruto's eyes brightened and he smiled. It was small, but genuine. Thanks, old man. Itachi stopped the sudden urge to twitch at the name. No one had ever called him names before. Kisame had never dared. And after hearing old man a second time, Itachi almost wanted to take back his offer of eating first. He supposed, for some reason, despite the blonde for calling him that offending name. He didn't though. Itachi, the older man stated, letting go of Naruto's chin to turn around and start walking again. Eh? Naruto asked before it clicked. He grinned. You don't like the old man thing, do you? Itachi gave no sign of acknowledging Naruto's statement, and continued to walk. He heard Naruto laugh softly behind him before the blonde caught up to walk at his side. They shared a companionable silence until Itachi stopped at the ramen stand. All hell proceeded to break loose as soon as Naruto was seated. To his amusement and slight disgust, Itachi watched as Naruto happily inhaled 8 bowls of what he learned was the blonde's favorite, miso pork ramen. The Uchiha was barely done his first bowl when Naruto had finished his 8. As a result, the blonde had taken to watching him eat. Itachi didn't mind this until Naruto was practically grinning from ear to ear. You're even graceful when you eat, Naruto answered Itachi's questioning gaze. The elder man grunted and got up from his seat. Let's go. Itachi paid for their meals and walked out of the stand with Naruto following closely behind. He led the blonde through the crowded streets towards a less populated part of the town. As much as the Uchiha didn't want to, there was only one particular man that Itachi wished to see. If it were any other way, he'd have killed the aforementioned man years ago. Arriving at the familiar darkened shop, Itachi opened the door and scanned the empty room for the owner. A spark of chakra was emanating from the basement, and Itachi recognized it instantly. He motioned for Naruto to follow him down a set of poorly made stairs, down a blackened hallway and to a brightly lit room. Naruto had to admit that the place was rather creepy and very unwelcoming. It didn't surprise him that Itachi would deal in places like this. The blonde was amused at the thought that any person who wasn't creepy and unwelcoming would only annoy the older man. Naruto knew for a fact that he got on Itachi's nerves to no end. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts when they entered the room. It was spacious and filled, wall to wall, with countless varieties of weapons. A weapons dealer? Ah, Itachi-sama, a melodiously eerie voice spoke from their left. Your katana is ready. Both men turned at the sound of the voice and Naruto's eyes widened. The man was, for lack of a better word, stunning. He was taller than Naruto, maybe around Itachi's height. But he was definitely smaller than the Uchiha. Naruto supposed the man had an effeminate build. He wore, what looked like, a burgundy ANBU uniform that clung to him in all the right places along his slender body. His dark red hair was cut in layers, the longest stopping at the man's shoulders. Naruto's gaze followed the soft curve of his jaw, only glancing at the smirking lips, and looked up into warm, hazel eyes. My, Itachi-sama. It seems your cute little companion has taken an interest in me. Naruto blushed and looked away. Itachi ignored the comment and moved to stand in front of the blonde. He is none of your concern. I'm only here for my katana and a favor. That piqued the dealer's interest. And what kind of favor, Itachi-sama? Naruto could not help but notice the man was blatantly flirting with Itachi. He was surprised the redhead was still alive. I need travel supplies, enough for two, and the usual set of weapons. He looked back at Naruto for a moment, and considered his next thought. He's going to need a disguise and something to cover up those marks. I see, the redhead smiled and peeked around Itachi to look at Naruto. On the run, are you? Just get the items I need and have them ready by tomorrow morning. I'll deal with the clothing. Humph, the other man pouted. Give me all the hard work. The comment only earned a warning glare from the Uchiha. The redhead chuckled. Everything you need will be ready at dawn, Itachi-sama. But just one question. Itachi nodded. Does it matter what type of disguise I get for the boy? He's cute enough to pass as a female, don't you think? The dealer said as he looked Naruto up and down. The blonde's anger flared at that. Shut up, you asshole. I do not look like a girl. Feisty, isn't he? The redhead asked, looking back to Itachi. The Uchiha put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and pushed him towards the exit, ignoring the ridiculous exchange of words. You have work to do, he said to the shop owner before he and Naruto left. Naruto stormed out of the idiot redhead's shop. He didn't care what the hell that guy's name was, but he deemed that idiot redhead was an appropriate name for the asshole. Asshole was a good name too. To top everything off, the blonde was angry with Itachi as well. The bastard Uchiha refused to allow him to go back and kick the shit out of the idiot redhead. He said something about foolish blondes and no chakra. The intervention only earned him a glare and a crude hand sign. They walked back to the main part of town in silence until Itachi stopped Naruto and directed him towards another store. Naruto's face brightened when he saw that it was a clothing store. He knew immediately that he'll be able to bath soon. The thought gave him a sudden burst of energy that Itachi was not prepared for. Itachi saw that gleam in Naruto's eyes, so he spoke in a quick, commanding voice, nothing gaudy. Just as quickly as he brightened up, Naruto's face fell and he glared at the older man. Why not? Discreetness, Naruto, was all Itachi said as he grabbed a pair of black pants, picked out a matching shirt and threw it to the blonde. Those will do. Pick out a few more things, then bring them to the cashier. Itachi left Naruto there to glare at his back as he went about getting his own clothing. He figured the blonde would not think to get anything warm in case they came across bad weather, so he picked out some thicker clothing for both of them. He was proved correct when he met up with his captive at the cashier. The only other things the blonde picked out were several pairs of socks, black ninja sandals, another set of clothing and a black jacket with orange-lined accents. Typical. It would have to do though. Itachi paid for their items and followed Naruto out of the store. Thanks, Naruto mumbled, for the clothes. HN. They walked in a comfortable silence until Itachi stopped in front of what seemed to be an inn. It was huge, in Naruto's opinion. Itachi led him through the gate and into a vast garden. They took one of the many stone paths that weaved through the beautifully laid-out landscape and walked over a small bridge. Naruto took a moment to watch the koi swimming in the murky water below, and then gaze at the rest of the garden. He could hear flowing water somewhere in the distance, and the soft chirps of birds within the trees. It was beautiful. And calm. The building itself looked like a temple. That was the best way Naruto could describe it. Intricately designed black and gold borders decorated the outer walls, framing the plainer, off-white surfaces beneath them. Black painted columns rose well into the air to hold up the red-tiled roof of the three-story building. The aforementioned roof was bordered with more gold-painted borders that accented the various dragon statues placed at each corner of the building. Naruto had never been to a bathhouse as nice as this one. He found himself once again thankful that the Uchiha would bring him to such a place, despite their situation. He was pulled from his thoughts when he heard Itachi speaking with someone. A woman. Probably the owner. A few words were exchanged that Naruto didn't care for until he heard the last part. Will the two of you be staying in separate rooms? The woman asked sweetly, quite obviously flirting with the Uchiha. And Naruto found that rather amusing. No, we'll be sharing a room. Disappointment crossed the woman's pretty features, but it was soon replaced with a forced smile as she guided them to a vacant room. Naruto bet that she would give them a discount on their room whether or not she got lucky with the older man. He highly doubted she'd be able to get anywhere near Itachi tonight, or ever for that matter. Naruto laughed at that thought, earning a questioning look from the Uchiha and a quick glare from the woman. Another thought made him laugh again when he saw the look on the woman's face. As Shikamaru would so bluntly put it, women are so troublesome. But laziness aside, the Shadow Nin made some pretty damn good points. Please enjoy your stay here. If there's anything you need, feel free to ask me, Naruto noted the way she emphasized the anything. He laughed again. Itachi nudged him into the room and ignored the idiotic woman, closing the door before she could say anything else. Naruto sighed as he flopped onto the large bed at the far end of the room. Without looking to see Itachi's reaction, he mused aloud, I think she likes you. When he didn't get an answer, the blonde turned and grinned at the older man. Are you gonna do anything about that? She's a beautiful woman, if I say so myself. No, was Itachi's blunt reply. Naruto frowned and rolled over onto his stomach to face the Uchiha. Why not? That asshole redhead at the store seemed to like you too. Naruto scowled at the thought of the idiot. Normally, Itachi would not have even considered answering, but Naruto seemed genuinely curious about his response. He wasn't very fond of people prying into his business. No one ever had since his departure from Konoha. Even Kisame hadn't bothered to question his personal matters before. It unnerved the older man even more to know that he didn't mind Naruto asking him such things. He likes you more, he finally said, the tiniest hint of amusement edged in his voice. Itachi watched as what he said clicked in the blonde's mind. The reaction was instantaneous. You bastard! He does not! Naruto had jumped off the bed and glared at the Uchiha. That idiot was who is he anyways? Let's go. Itachi ignored the blonde's question and motioned towards the outdoor bath. Eh? Naruto dumbly asked as he stared wide-eyed at the older man who had already removed his shirt. I'm not going in there with you. The faint blush that bloomed on his face only got redder when Itachi turned his head and replied, Yes, you are. Naruto's mouth dropped at the command. He was well aware of his situation and the logical reasoning as to why Itachi wanted him in the bath. It made perfect sense. But it didn't make Naruto any less embarrassed. Damn Uchiha. Naruto sighed and nodded. Instead of undressing in front of Itachi, he grabbed a towel and changed in the bathroom. He was surprised that the Uchiha would undress like that in front of him. To be more precise, the blonde was downright shocked. Who would have ever thought? He mused to himself. It felt good to take off his dirty, torn clothes. Naruto scrunched his nose in distaste at the smell of 2 days without bathing. He couldn't wait to get into the steaming water. Wrapping the towel around his hips, Naruto exited the bathroom and saw that Itachi was already gone. He stepped out of the open door and found his captor leaning against the edge of the bath with his eyes shut. Calm and composed were the first words that came to Naruto's mind as he stepped into the hot water. In control. Naruto sat across from the silent Uchiha and let his eyes wander over the slightly heat-flushed features of his captor. From the top of his chest where the water reached to his broad shoulders. Naruto looked at the beaded necklace for a moment, and then his eyes moved farther up and followed the lines of a strong jaw. He saw that Itachi had untied his hair. It fell down in waves and rested on the side of the bath. He stopped his roaming gaze when he saw that Itachi had caught him staring and was watching him just as intently. Thankfully, his blush was well masked by the slight flush already adorning his features from the heated water. You know, I've never actually been to one of these places before, Naruto said quietly. Well, to one as nice as this. Itachi didn't say anything and let the blonde talk. I was never allowed to go to any of the onsen in Konoha. Kakashi-sensei took us to one before and Yamato-sensei even made one for us to stay at for the night. Naruto chuckled. Ero-sennin was always going to onsen, but we were always kicked out. Damn pervert and his damn research. Why? Itachi asked quietly. Naruto smiled sadly. The owners didn't want to serve a monster. That's a direct quote. Itachi nodded and waited for the blonde to continue. I got used to all the whispers of monster and demon behind my back and to my face. It's something that wasn't going to change anytime soon, so I had to get used to it. I'm also only allowed in a select few restaurants and stores. I guess I had to get used to that too. A dry laugh. In town today, there were so many happy people, so it was kind of weird not to hear any insults. I felt out of place. So that was why Naruto had acted strange earlier. You were alone. Naruto nodded, always. There was a short, comfortable silence before Itachi spoke again. They're fake. HM? Your smiles. They're not real, Itachi stated. Naruto nodded. It took Sasuke a lot longer to figure that out. Hell, it took everyone I care about a hell of a lot longer than he took too. And some of them still don't know the difference yet. Why are you telling me this? The Uchiha asked, genuinely curious as to why Naruto was suddenly being so open. Naruto shrugged and leaned back against the edge of the bath, closing his eyes. I don't know. I guess I felt that I needed to explain myself. Itachi peered at the blonde warily. Naruto never ceased to surprise him, and he found himself wanting to know more about the blonde. Naruto was interesting. The older man was interrupted by another chuckle from his captive. I also thought you may have wanted to know. You get this funny frown on your face when you're trying to solve something in that genius head of yours. Naruto laughed when Itachi shot him a glare. I bet you didn't know that either, old man. Naruto was very interesting indeed. Sasuke woke up early the next morning. Well, he couldn't sleep. He hadn't really been able to sleep at all since Naruto's disappearance. And the involvement of his brother only served to worsen things. He sat up and glanced around the camp. Sakura was still asleep and Sai, he sensed, was up in the tree. The black-haired man had last watch. The Uchiha looked around for Gaara and found him sitting with his back against a tree. Meditating? Or was he sleeping? Sasuke couldn't really tell. Even after Shikaku was removed, I have yet to sleep a full night, Gaara spoke quietly. Sasuke was well aware of Gaara's sleeping condition. Naruto had explained it to him once before. You haven't slept at all tonight, Gaara stated. HN. Gaara opened his eyes and studied the younger Uchiha. His eyes were slightly puffy and lined with dark circles unlike his own. Sasuke's skin was paler than usual, and there was also a deep pain in his eyes. Gaara thought the Uchiha looked horrid. Would you like to learn this technique? The redhead asked. You don't really sleep, but you'll be able to rest for a short time. Sasuke was a little wary of the offer, but threw aside his dislike for the Kazekage and nodded, sitting down beside Gaara. When Sakura woke up, she saw that all 3 other bedrolls were empty. She forced herself out of bed and attempted to stretch all of the kinks out of her stiff back. She was never really fond of sleeping on the hard ground. The kunoichi saw Sai was cooking them a simple breakfast for them, and she looked up to see Gaara staring at the sunrise from the tree branch above their camp. Sakura smiled softly at the serene redhead when he turned to acknowledge her, then followed his gaze to the base of the tree. She laughed softly when she saw Sasuke leaning against the tree. Asleep. She heard a soft whoosh of sand next to her. I taught him my meditation technique and he fell asleep, Gaara explained with slight humor tinging his voice. Sakura smiled at the older man again. Thanks, Gaara. He really needed the rest. Gaara nodded at her and sat down near the fire to wait for breakfast, ignoring Sai's morning greetings. Sakura sighed and grabbed a blanket to place over Sasuke. Judging from his deep breathing, they were going to have to carry him back to Konoha. He was not going to be happy when he woke up. For some reason, she thought that Gaara may have done this on purpose at the Uchiha's expense. She ignored the thought and turned around to join Sai and Gaara at the fire for breakfast. Surprising himself, Naruto actually managed to wake up before sunrise. That bath had done wonders to his aching body, and he fell asleep as soon as he slipped into the bed the night before. The blonde made a mental note to thank Itachi again. It seemed kind of odd for a captive to be thanking his captor, but Naruto thought it would be rude not to. Then he frowned when he thought of how many times he'd already thanked the Uchiha. Naruto sighed. He shouldn't be feeling like he owed Itachi anything, but he supposed it couldn't be helped. Especially not after everything that's happened in the last week. He rolled over to find 2 red eyes regarding him silently. Naruto stretched as he spoke. You know? It's kind of creepy to wake up and find someone watching you with red eyes. He didn't miss the slight frown on Itachi's handsome features. What? Naruto asked. It's nothing, Itachi's voice was quiet. Lay back down. On your back. Eh? The blonde's eyes widened. He watched as Itachi stood up, but suddenly disappear. Before he knew it, Naruto was being pushed down onto the bed, red eyes spinning as the older man lifted up his shirt. Oh, this again, Naruto thought angrily. Bastard Uchiha. Naruto felt his stomach tingling, and he looked down to see what exactly Itachi was doing. The older man had one hand holding up Naruto's shirt and keeping him pinned to the bed, the other was hovering slightly above his abdomen. Blue sparks of chakra were being emitted from Itachi's hand and, to Naruto's surprise, were being absorbed into the visible seals. What the hell is going on? The blonde whispered, noticing that the seals were now glowing the same blue as the chakra from Itachi's hand. Itachi looked up at his captive, ceasing his test on the seal. He was not planning on telling Naruto what he thought was wrong, but it may be more beneficial if the blonde was aware of the situation. What did it feel like? Itachi asked seriously. What did what feel like? Was Naruto's dumb response. This, Itachi answered, a little irritated that the blonde could be so dense. He directed another concentrated wave of chakra to Naruto's stomach. They both watched as the seals reappeared and glowed blue. It feels really good, but weird, Naruto answered quietly as the prickling sensation started to escalate. Itachi's chakra was relaxing his body and Naruto felt like sleeping again. He whimpered quietly when that feeling was taken away. Can you describe it any other way? Itachi frowned at the sleepy blonde. Let me get back to you on that one. Naruto yawned and attempted to roll over and go back to sleep. Get dressed, we're leaving, Itachi ordered as he got up off the bed. Naruto groaned into a pillow. How about a nap and another bath? There was a small moment of silence and Naruto hoped the Uchiha would say yes. Get dressed. Damn. Bastard Uchiha doesn't want to waste time. Fine. Give me a few minutes, bastard, Naruto grumbled angrily and rolled off the bed. Itachi got up from where he was sitting and left Naruto alone. The blonde surmised that he went to pay for their room. Finally rolling out of bed, Naruto yawned and stared longingly at the screen door that led to the bath. If only. Sighing, Naruto rummaged through the bag that held his new clothes and got dressed. He decided he liked the outfit. It was comfortable and it felt durable, but it was not as eye-catching as he would have liked it to be. Damn Itachi and his damn discreetness. The blonde had felt like he had won a small victory when he pulled out the orange-accented jacket. It felt good to be in new, clean clothes. Let's go. Naruto turned around to see Itachi standing in the doorway, looking as emotionless and cold as ever. Did she hit on you again? Naruto asked, grinning madly. Itachi glared at him, turned and left. The blonde's smirk only intensified before following his captor out of the inn. He was surprised the woman was even up this early, considering that last night she had stayed up late, lingering around their room. Naruto thought it was funny that Uchiha Itachi even had his share of fangirls despite the cold and unapproachable attitude. The sun was rising and the streets were quiet and barren. Naruto figured that there would be at least some people up, but there was no one. The shops were dark and empty, their owners probably still in bed. Damn, Uchiha was an early riser. They made their way quietly back to the weapons shop and Naruto was not looking forward to seeing that asshole redhead again. He was still pissed off at him for the girl comment the day before. Asshole. By the time he and Itachi had reached the weapons shop, Naruto was practically fuming. The Uchiha took note of this immediately and spoke quickly. Calm down and stay out of trouble, he ordered. You shut up. That jerk deserves a kick in the ass, Naruto shot back without even considering what he was saying, calling me a girl when he looks more girly than I do. Itachi raised an eyebrow at the blonde. It appeared that Naruto was too caught up in his anger at the redhead to realize exactly what he had just said to Itachi. No one had ever spoken to him in such a way whether they were aware of it or not. Foolish blonde. All of this anger and attitude over a girl comment. This, Itachi mused, is exactly what it felt like to deal with a spoiled child, remembering dealing with a younger Sasuke all those years ago. Keep out of trouble, Naruto, Itachi tried again, speaking in a firm and cold voice. Naruto pouted and glared at the older man. Fine, bastard. Itachi accepted the response despite the rude name. He opened the door to the shop and was greeted by that eerie melodious voice once again. Ah, Itachi-sama. You're rather late than usual. Is everything prepared? Yes. Everything that you asked for and the boy's disguise are ready. Naruto couldn't help but notice the leering grin on the redhead. He glared at the man, but remembering Itachi's command, Naruto said nothing. The redhead laughed. Unfortunately, it's not a girl disguise, but I could get you one if you wanted. It wouldn't be a problem. He winked. You would look really cute too. Shut the hell up, you. It's Keisuke, the redhead cut Naruto off. I don't care what your name is. Naruto was again stopped from voicing his anger and frustration when Itachi put a strong hand on his shoulder and squeezed it in warning. Bastard Uchiha. Anyways, the only thing I could get for those whisker marks of yours was makeup. I didn't think you two would be entering any towns anytime soon. If you hadn't noticed, Itachi-sama hates crowds. Such a cold man, Keisuke smirked at Itachi. The makeup should last a while, if you use it properly. I suppose Itachi-sama could teach you how to put it on as well? No, that idiot weapons dealer was starting to get on the Uchiha's nerves again. He won't need to use it often, so let him figure it out. Naruto finally spoke up. Don't I get a say in this? I don't want to wear makeup. The look that Itachi gave him spoke otherwise, and Keisuke saw this. And that would be a no, the redhead said smugly. You two make quite the pair. Shut up, bastard. Enough, you two, Itachi ordered. Just give me the bag. Always ruining my fun, Itachi-sama, Keisuke pouted as he gave Itachi a small black bag. As I've said before, everything you need is in here. I doubled the amount for the extra cargo you have and even took the liberty of getting you some extra money. HN. Naruto looked at the bag and frowned. It was so small. Everything is in there? He asked. Keisuke nodded. It's probably enough for a month or so. Maybe longer. In that? Naruto pointed at the bag. Yes, that. There was a small moment of silence before Naruto spoke again. How? Keisuke rolled his eyes. Everything has been stored via jutsu into several scrolls. It's a basic skill that all shinobi should know. Oh. Naruto blushed at his own stupidity. Even now, it never fails. You're a shinobi? Keisuke asked, looking at Itachi. I didn't even sense your chakra signature. The Uchiha showed no sign of acknowledging the questioning gaze. That bastard, Naruto pointed at Itachi, sealed it up. Keisuke grinned. Once again, Itachi-sama, I commend you in your taste in prey. Let's go, Itachi spoke before Naruto and Keisuke could get into another argument. He directed the fuming blonde towards the door. Until next time, Itachi-sama, Keisuke waved as he watched the pair leave. He idly wondered how long they had been together because he had noticed immediately that Itachi was different somehow. There was nothing there, Hokage-sama, Sasuke reported. He and his team had finally made it back to Konoha. Well, Sai had apparently carried him most of the way back. Damn Gaara. He knew the Kazekage was seemingly trying to help, but the man should mind his own fucking business. Now was not the time to be pulling shit like that. Sasuke stifled his anger, however, and returned his thoughts to the situation at hand. Judging from the Hokage's downcast features, it was obvious that the other teams that were deployed had not had any luck either. After all, there were no leads, no witnesses, and no clues. They were chasing ghosts. The older woman nodded. She knew it would have been futile to send a team there, but the Uchiha had insisted, and it was a convenient place to meet the Kazekage. Where else were they supposed to look? Jiraiya had not been able to find out anything regarding which Akatsuki base Naruto had been taken to. The group had several locations they frequented, but never stayed at for very long. They were always moving. The old pervert must miss something somewhere. This is grave news, and considering the circumstances, I fear the worst, Tsunade stated. There are still more places we can look, Sakura began. It has been over a week, Sakura. What makes you think the brat is still alive? The blonde woman interrupted her. Sasuke's anger rose instantly, and he slammed his fist against the desk. What makes you think he's dead? Calm down, Uchiha, Tsunade sighed. You know full well that the likelihood of his survival is slim to none. You were briefed on Shikaku's extraction by both the Kazekage. She looked to Gaara, who nodded, and myself. There was a short moment of silence before she continued. The Akatsuki were able to abduct him quickly and very efficiently. What makes you think he's still alive? Sasuke didn't respond. He was damn well aware of the situation. He blamed himself for it, but he wouldn't accept his rival's death. Not yet. Tsunade read the look on the Uchiha's face. A glimmer of hope managed to surface itself within her. She would not accept it either. She hoped that somehow, with Naruto being Naruto, he'd figure his way out of the situation. No matter how dire it was. I will allow the search to continue for 2 more weeks. If Naruto is not found before then, the village of Konoha will declare him deceased. Understood? She hated the thought of it, but it was procedure. When she received the, albeit grim, acknowledgement from Sasuke's team, Tsunade continued, I will send you 3 with Jiraiya. He has gotten word of a disturbance of sorts in the rock country. Apparently, there was a large surge of chakra from the northeastern area that has yet to be investigated. I'm not familiar with all of the details, but he will brief you on them. Hokage-sama? Gaara finally spoke up. He had remained silent during the entire debriefing, leaning against the wall and only listening to the rather pointless banter being passed back and forth. The mention of a mission finally caught his interest. Yes, Kazekage-sama? If it is not too much trouble, I would like to accompany Uchiha's team. Tsunade considered the offer. She knew very well of Naruto's and Gaara's friendship. Kindred spirits, she surmised. She was not surprised to hear that Gaara wanted to help when she had sent word to him. Very well, I will send another team of ANBU. Gaara cut her off. Thank you, Hokage-sama, but there is no need. I fear another team will only slow us down, and I am confident in Uchiha's team. I am also very capable of taking care of myself. Tsunade nodded. And what of Suna? I have left Temari and Kankuro in charge for the time being. They are more than able to take care of the village in my absence, Gaara responded. I see. As long as it's fine with Sasuke, she looked over to the Uchiha. It's fine, he nodded his agreement. It's settled then. Your 2-week time limit starts tomorrow morning, use it well. Jiraiya will be waiting at the front gate at sunrise. But for now, all 4 of you are to rest until then. Dismissed. With that, there were 3 simultaneous poofs of smoke, leaving Tsunade alone with Gaara. Do you think he's dead? The redhead asked her seriously. Logically? Yes, she sighed, turning to look out the window, but my instincts are telling me no. However, that could just be me hoping with everything I have that the brat's still alive. Somewhere. Gaara nodded but said nothing. He felt the same way. Naruto groaned, Can we stop now? We've been walking all day. I can't even see anymore. The blonde had only been able to run for about half the day and refused to get onto Itachi's back. After a lot of whining and annoyance on Naruto's part, the Uchiha had relented and stopped for lunch. When they were finished, they resumed their journey at a slower pace until the blonde started to complain about being hungry again. Itachi had skillfully ignored him that time and merely continued walking. Now, however, the blonde had a point. The sun had set hours ago, and there was no moon in the sky. Itachi could still see with his Sharingan, but Naruto was damn well hopeless. Itachi finally spoke, stay here. The Uchiha left the blonde standing alone on the path to search for a suitable place to camp for the night. Humph, bastard, Naruto cursed under his breath. He was not used to traveling without chakra and his constant fatigue was a huge blow to his pride. The blonde sat down. Itachi wouldn't be long, but damn was he ever tired. Naruto had deduced at sundown that they were heading east. Most likely towards the lightning country. He still hadn't asked the Uchiha about what exactly they were doing and where they were going. Hell, he'd been too tired to even think about asking him. A soft breeze next to him alerted Naruto of Itachi's arrival. This way, was all the older man said before leaving Naruto again and walking towards the area he had deemed worthy for their temporary camp. Naruto sighed and followed the Uchiha through the dense underbrush of the forest. Camping near the path, in Naruto's opinion, would have been a hell of a lot better than walking 15 minutes away from the main path to a more secluded area. Itachi was a very cautious man. Naruto supposed the fact did not surprise him, but the blonde did find that it got on his nerves somewhat. Do we really need to stray so far away from the road, Itachi? Naruto asked. I mean 5 or 10 minutes is fine, but 15? Itachi frowned and did not answer. He idly wondered how the blonde managed to survive his missions, considering how reckless he was when it came to stealth. During his time observing Naruto in Konoha, Itachi had been rather surprised at the working relationship his captive had with his brother. Together, they were professional, discreet, and very efficient. The odd time that Naruto trained alone under the ever-watchful eyes of his ANBU guards, he appeared to regress to his old habits. Pure instinct and raw determination. Traits that suited Naruto more. Finally, the blonde sighed when Itachi stopped. You know? The area 10 minutes ago looked exactly like this place. I don't see why we couldn't have stayed closer to the path. Is that all you're going to say on this journey of ours? Naruto observed the older man with amused eyes. Like I said before, old man, you need to relax and talk more. Is that so? Itachi decided to humor the blonde as he sat down and looked through the black bag Keisuke had provided them. Well, yeah, Naruto was quiet for a moment before speaking again. I kind of like it. You know? When you talk. Itachi looked up and eyed his captive warily, but said nothing. What I mean is, I don't like talking to a wall. Naruto blushed and looked away, stuffing his hands in his pockets. There was a rustling sound and then a small poof. Naruto turned back to the Uchiha and found himself face to face with a blanket. Here, Itachi waited for the blonde to take the offered item. Thanks. Naruto wrapped the blanket around him and sat down next to his captor. Are you going to keep watch? HN. Naruto took that as a yes. Well, wake me up when it's my turn, the blonde yawned, leaning against the older man as he made himself comfortable. Itachi found Naruto's odd behavior over the last week rather perplexing. It was not common for a captive to act the way Naruto does with him. No one would ever consider acting this way with him, but for some reason, the blonde did. Itachi didn't know why, but again, he found that he really didn't mind the extra attention. Itachi lifted his hand and let his fingers lightly run through blonde hair and down a whiskered cheek. Naruto was warm. Itachi had sensed them the night before. There were about 20 of them. Nothing he couldn't handle. But Naruto was a liability. The blonde was capable of taijutsu and could probably handle himself, but he had no chakra. He wouldn't be able to put any power into his moves. The missing Nin attacked at dawn. Itachi had not woken Naruto up during the night to stand guard. He deemed it unnecessary because the Uchiha was used to long periods of time without sleep. Since the day he left Konoha, Itachi had never really slept. Never without the dreams. They didn't bother him as much as they used to, but the elder Uchiha still saw them as clearly as the day he took his family's lives. Perhaps it was another side effect to the Manjikyu. He didn't know for sure. There had been nothing in the scrolls regarding such occurrences. Only blindness. Itachi pushed his thoughts aside and reached down next to him to wake up Naruto. He shook the blonde lightly and spoke in a quiet, commanding tone. Wake up. We have some things to deal with. Naruto groaned but was silenced when a hand clamped over his mouth. His eyes widened, but he did not struggle. He was surprised, however, when he was pulled into a strong embrace, hot breath ghosting across his cheek to his ear. We are surrounded. 4 to the north, 6 to the south, and 5 each to the east and west. Itachi was too close and the blonde could not help but blush at this predicament. Goddamn Uchiha. Are you able to handle yourself, Naruto? It took a moment for Naruto to calm his racing nerves. He had definitely not expected to be woken up in such a way. Bastard. He nodded and pocketed the weapons Itachi had discreetly handed him. His captor pulled away, taking his warmth along with him. It bothered Naruto that he wanted to feel it again. He hadn't been this close to the older man since he was first abducted. Naruto frowned. What the hell was he thinking? A firm grip on his arm warned him that the attackers were closing in. Naruto tried to sense something. Anything. But all he could feel was a slight flicker across his skin before it disappeared. Had he not been paying attention, Naruto wouldn't have even noticed it. He smiled. It was small, but it was definitely something. Although, he doubted it would help him at all as he fought the opponents that now surrounded him and Itachi. No words were spoken. Itachi eyed their attackers warily with Sharingan eyes as he attempted to come up with the best way to go about killing all 20 men while protecting the practically useless blonde. He knew, without a doubt, that the missing Nin knew that Naruto was helpless. They would distract him and try to kill his captive. The Nin were not strong, but they weren't weak either. They were more than capable of taking out Naruto if Itachi didn't watch out for him closely enough. The Uchiha reasoned that he would be able to take out a fair number of them on his own before any of them managed to get near the blonde. He was wrong. The missing Nin in front of them moved first. The man charged at Itachi with chakra-accelerated speed for a direct attack. It was the Uchiha's first mistake to underestimate these men, for 2 Nin from behind attacked with the same swiftness as the first. Naruto was knocked away from Itachi and towards another group of Nin. Shit, Naruto swore as he got up from the ground. Bastards could at least push a little gentler. He looked up at his opponents. There were 4, which meant that 16 were fighting Itachi? Talk about an unfair fight. Naruto mused as he stood in one of the many defensive poses that Lee had taught him. He waited for his attackers to move first. The man on his left charged at him, and Naruto expected another 1 or 2 to attack from behind. The same strategy used to split him and Itachi up. Naruto dodged the punch from ahead and pulled the man past him and into the arms of the man who was attacking from behind. They collided and fell to the ground. They wouldn't be down for long, but at least these guys were weaker than the ones that had attacked Itachi. The Nin on his right threw several shuriken at the blonde. Naruto dove to the ground but was unable to prevent one of the sharp projectiles to slice across his left shoulder. It hurt like hell and he could feel the blood pouring out. Naruto automatically clutched the wound in his right hand as he waited for the next attack. The two men on the ground had already gotten up and Naruto was once again surrounded on all sides. Fuck. Itachi had disposed 12 of the men quite easily. It was only the last 4 that were putting up a half-decent fight. They were fast. He had discovered with his Sharingan that the Nin were using a jutsu. Just before one attacked, the Uchiha activated his bloodline limit and copied the elaborate move. It would definitely prove useful in the future. Repeating the hand signals at a speed much faster than those of his attackers, Itachi put that jutsu to good use. Like the first attack on himself earlier, the Uchiha charged at one of his opponents and killed the man before he even realized Itachi had moved. This jutsu was very useful indeed. He turned to the last 3 and, instead of attacking them directly, Itachi circled them and threw several well-aimed kunai at their throats. A series of choked cries and gurgling sounds were emitted from the dying men. Itachi double-checked their fading chakra signatures to ensure that his enemies were dead. Satisfied, he turned to see how Naruto was faring. There was 1 dead man at the blonde's feet and 3 were still alive. A small feeling of pride found its way out of Itachi's suppressed emotions as he watched his captive manage to take care of himself. Given his circumstances, Naruto was handling himself rather well. Itachi noticed that Naruto was wounded and bleeding. His left shoulder was the more serious out of the injuries, and it looked like the blonde was about to collapse. Yet Itachi didn't move. He merely watched as Naruto refused to give up. Raw determination. The remaining missing Nin had not even noticed their comrade's demise. Convenient for him, but it definitely wouldn't be for them. Naruto tried to ignore his injuries and concentrate on the remaining 3 men. The one he managed to kill had been the same one that had attacked him head-on. Naruto may be slower, but his taijutsu level was much more advanced. He had used one of the kunai Itachi had given him and thrust the weapon into the man's chest. 1 down, 3 to go. He swore again when all 3 attacked him simultaneously. Where the hell was Itachi? Naruto couldn't waste any time to search for the Uchiha, so he focused all of his attention back to the task at hand. Avoiding a punch to his gut, Naruto thrust his palm into one of the Nin's face, breaking his nose. The blonde turned around with his elbow out to get another man in the face, but it was blocked. The other Nin grabbed onto Naruto's arm and pulled him against the strong chest. 2 arms were hooked around his and Naruto found himself on his knees in a hold he could not get out of. The other ninja had the blade of a katana against his throat. Naruto felt useless. This was his second fight without his chakra and he had barely been able to defend himself, let alone attack. Now he was at the mercy of these random assholes. He looked at his enemies and noticed that the third one had disappeared. Naruto scanned the area and saw the many bodies of the Nin that had attacked Itachi. He noticed a movement to his left and saw that third Nin's body drop to the ground. Dead. Itachi had sliced the man's throat. The Uchiha looked up and bore his blazing eyes into those of his captive. A silent conversation passed between the two before one of the remaining 2 Nin spoke. "I will not hesitate to kill him," the man hissed when Itachi was about to move. The elder Uchiha stilled his movements. He waited for Naruto to nod before he performed the proper hand seals and disappeared from sight. Just as the missing Nin was about to slice Naruto's throat, he felt warm liquid running down his torso. He stared wide-eyed at the blood flowing down his body towards the ground. Falling to the ground, the last thing the man saw before everything went black was a pair of satisfied red eyes. Itachi turned to the last Nin holding Naruto and pulled the blonde from the man's weakened hold. The shinobi had lost his nerve and appeared to be trembling in fear. He was alone, and he was going to die. The look in the dark-haired man's eyes was that of a killer. A murderer. He closed his eyes when Itachi pulled out his own katana. The attack never came. The Nin released the breath he had been holding and chanced opening his eyes. The sight before him was puzzling, but he was very grateful for it. The blond man was standing in between himself and the dark-haired man, his tanned hand grasping the paler hand holding the sword. The Nin couldn't see the blond man's face, but he could see the others very clearly. Then the shorter of the two spoke. "That's enough, Itachi." The Uchiha glared down at Naruto's defiant eyes. He would not let him kill the last Nin, the last of their enemies. The hand on his own tightened as Naruto turned and glared at the man on the ground. "Leave. Now or die," the blonde's tone was serious and commanding. Seeing that the Nin nodded and disappeared from sight, Naruto relaxed and looked back to Itachi. "Thank you," Naruto smiled up at the older man before his eyes rolled back as he passed out. Itachi caught his captive before he fell to the ground. Hooking his arms under the blonde's legs, he lifted him up and paused. Naruto was cold. He deduced that it was from blood loss. He needed to hurry. Itachi judged from the amount of blood loss, Naruto would not be able to survive without proper care. He would have healed him with chakra, but it would do no good anyways with the seal absorbing everything. Damn it. The Uchiha grabbed one of their discarded blankets and wrapped it around the shivering body in his arms. Resting Naruto's weight against his chest, Itachi performed the seals to the new jutsu he copied and rushed towards the closest town. It was a small one, if he remembered correctly, but it would have to do. They were roughly 2 days away. With this new jutsu, Itachi estimated it would take less than half that time. He hoped Naruto would be able to hold on until then. He quashed the thought immediately. Again, his wandering thoughts unnerved him. He glanced down at the younger man in his arms. What was it about Naruto that made him feel things? His situation was becoming more and more dangerous as their time together increased. Itachi knew this, but he still could not understand it. Or was it that he would not? They were wasting time. Sasuke had stated this several times to the old pervert, but Jiraiya had claimed that they needed more information. Uchiha Sasuke was a patient man, but the delicate situation at hand was definitely not a thing to be taken so lightly. And, after witnessing Jiraiya's powerful form of persuasion again, the black-haired Jounin's patience ran out. He was about to, quite literally, kick the shit out of the Sannin when 2 arms blocked his path. He's always like this, Sasuke-kun, Sakura whispered, he really is trying to get information. She's right. That woman, Sai pointed at the fuming woman Jiraiya was flirting with, is one of his informants. And you know this how? Sasuke asked, glaring at the old man. Oh, I have my ways, Sasuke-kun, Sai smiled, besides, if that woman wasn't an informant, we wouldn't even be here. They were currently in the hidden village of the rock. Jiraiya had needed to stop and speak with, apparently, one of his informants. It had only taken a little over a day to get there, which was quite record time. It would have normally taken 2 to 3 days if it had not been such a dire emergency. Gaara had remained quiet. He had to admit that this Jiraiya's antics somewhat irritated him. And his patience was also wearing thin. He couldn't blame the Uchiha for acting like a fool. There was an audible slap before the woman turned and left, disappearing into the crowd of people. Jiraiya turned and grinned at the 4 nin behind him. His right cheek was tinged red with his recent battle wound. We need to travel about a day northeast. She said we can't miss it, Jiraiya spoke seriously. We already know that there was a huge chakra pulse that resulted in a mountain collapsing in on itself. As well as the fact that the pulse could be felt here. What we didn't know was that it was the power of a Jinchuriki. Now, this caught the attention of Sasuke and his team. Really? Sakura asked. Yeah, the investigation team from here determined the chakra source as the power of a demon. Which one? The old man asked the question first. They don't know. The Akatsuki have already extracted 7 of the 9 bijus as far as I know, but I don't know if they have gotten a hold of the 4 tails or not. There's a good chance that that pulse was from Naruto. A good chance. However, it could mean that Kyuubi had successfully been extracted. What made you come up with that assumption? Sasuke interrupted. There has never been such a surge of power coming from an extraction up until now. So, it could mean that Naruto put up a good fight. Or, Kyuubi was extracted successfully and Jiraiya wouldn't finish the sentence. It was too soon, yet you get my drift. Could the surge have been from the 4 tails? Sai asked, not liking either of the pervert's scenarios. I'm not so sure. The 4 tails is quite powerful. It is a demon after all, but I'm not entirely sure if it could cause such a surge of power like that. Kyuubi is a force to be reckoned with. The evidence, in my opinion, points to the 9 tails, but the only way we're going to know is if we check the area for ourselves. It's not likely we'll find anything, but it's the best place to start, Jiraiya offered. He disliked the fact that he didn't know everything he needed for this situation, but the older Uchiha had done his job well. Leaving everyone, including himself, perplexed, at a complete loss of what to do and where to go next. And this was a first for the Sannin. When do we leave? Sasuke finally spoke, his anger slowly dissipating and replaced with worry and regret. We will stay in Rock for the night and leave in the morning, after sunrise, Jiraiya responded. They had traveled a long way in such a short time. Determination and motivation would last, but their strength and stamina unfortunately would not. The rest of the group knew this too, and they nodded their agreement despite their reluctance. Itachi stood against the wall, silently watching his captive sleep. Like he had estimated, they had been able to reach the village in less than a day. Upon arrival, Itachi found the small hospital and caused quite the uproar when he brought them Naruto's still and cold form. He was alive, but just barely. The nurses had taken Naruto from him immediately. And a doctor asked Itachi several questions in regards to the blonde's condition and about his captive in general. She was rather insistent about why Naruto was in that state, but Itachi merely shook his head. The woman nodded in understanding. Itachi assumed that this hospital had received wounded Nin before. Before the woman had left to help with Naruto, Itachi had told her not to use any chakra. This puzzled the woman, but she agreed nonetheless. Only she and a few other doctors at the hospital used chakra, and she had told him that. Itachi heard a muffled groan. He looked back up to the bed. Naruto had rolled over onto his stomach and was trying to push himself up. Foolish blonde. Lay down, Naruto, Itachi said quietly. Naruto stopped his movements and followed the sound of the Uchiha's voice. His eyes were a little blurry, but he could make out that definite black shape anywhere. Bastard. What happened? Naruto asked, listening to Itachi and laying back down. You lost too much blood. So I brought you here. Naruto looked around the white room. He glared when his eyes crossed the window with the slightly open curtains. That beam of sunlight hitting his face is what had woken him up. He continued to examine the room when Itachi came back into view. A hospital? Naruto asked. HN. Then Naruto remembered. He tried to look at his shoulder only to wince in pain. That's right, he had gotten injured during that fight. The blonde lifted his arms and grimaced at the multiple bandages adorning his limbs. He was silently cursing the ninja that had attacked them when a sudden thought occurred to him. Hey, Itachi? Who were those guys? Why'd they attack us? No one of our concern, was Itachi's cryptic response. Naruto frowned. Bastard, can you explain it any better than that? Missing Nin, he responded blandly. Bandits, if you will. Realization dawned on Naruto's features. I see. Get some rest, Naruto. We will be leaving tomorrow at dawn, Itachi said as he pushed himself off of the wall. A sudden wave of dizziness hit him, and the Uchiha quickly placed his hand back onto the wall to steady himself. He ignored it earlier to keep an eye on Naruto, but now it seemed to be hitting him much harder than before. That jutsu used up a lot of his chakra. Itachi would have to study it a bit more, but it was now obvious that it was not meant to be used for long periods of time. He was tired. The blonde could see that Itachi's Sharingan was flickering again. He got up off of the bed and walked over to the older man. The Uchiha was exhausted, more so than before. Are you alright? Naruto asked quietly. Itachi felt a gentle hand on his arm and he turned to see questioning blue eyes. He didn't respond, only returning Naruto's gaze with his own resolute one. The blonde once again cursed the Uchihas and their damn pride. Get some rest, old man, we will be leaving tomorrow at dawn. The blonde smirked in satisfaction when the Uchiha frowned. You can sleep in the bed, I'll still be here when you wake up. Despite Naruto's willingness thus far, Itachi was still a little wary of him. Eyeing his captive curiously, the older man nodded his acquiesce and walked to the bed. Upon lying down, the blonde spoke again. I'm going to get something to eat, I'll be right back. Naruto's stomach decided to rumble at that moment, and he blushed. Is that okay? HN, Itachi responded and closed his eyes. Naruto stayed a moment longer and watched as the Uchiha seemingly fell asleep. Humph. That didn't take too long. Proud bastard, the irate Jounin mumbled before leaving the room in search of food. Hopefully ramen. It wasn't long, thankfully, before he managed to find a small cafeteria and almost cringed at the smell of the place. The food smelled awful and looked just as bad when he saw it. What the hell kind of hospital served food like this? Excuse me, young man? A woman's voice asked. Naruto turned to look at whoever was speaking to him. His face was still contorted into a look of disgust. He was taken aback when the woman laughed at him. I'm sorry, but your face, she tried to explain. You don't like the food, do you? Naruto chuckled and scratched the back of his head. He knew his reaction to the food was rude, but he couldn't help it. It looked very inedible. Sorry, but I don't think I do, he laughed nervously. It's okay, she smiled and then whispered, I don't like it either. Naruto smiled. The woman was nice. A doctor by the looks of it. She was about his height and very pretty. Her brown hair was tied back into a bun, leaving layered bangs to frame her face. And she wore glasses that failed to hide her emerald green eyes still shining with laughter. There was a short moment of comfortable silence before she spoke again. My name is Sasaki Ayuko. I am the doctor that treated you earlier today, she introduced. I went to check on you a few minutes ago, but I found your friend instead. Oh. Sorry about that. He was tired. He stopped himself and blushed, feeling impolite that he didn't introduce himself. My name's Uzumaki Naruto. Ayako frowned. That's odd. Eh? What's odd? The name your partner gave me was not Uzumaki. Shit. It figures that bastard wouldn't use our real names. Now what the hell was he going to do? It was too late now anyways. Well, my name is Uzumaki. I don't know what the bastard was thinking. He's too cautious for his own good, in my opinion. He smiled cheerfully, hoping to avoid the subject of Itachi's name. Well, that is rather odd to be giving out fake names, but it's none of my business, she stated, then asked, Now, how are you feeling? Good, from the looks of it, but I'd like to hear it from you. I'm a little sore. It's been a rough week, Naruto chuckled, but I feel fine. Thank you for helping us out. You're welcome. I will have to examine your wounds again before you leave. Your partner said you would be leaving in the morning, correct? She asked. Yeah, he wants to leave right away, Naruto answered. Well, as long as I think you're okay to leave, then I will allow it, she spoke.